Everybody, and welcome to the continuation of the agenda on May 14th, 2024. We were right at the end, maybe not the complete end, of the engineering report. Is there anything else that staff would like to add?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Ricks, that was an incredible reading of the rendition of your staff report. We may use you for other staff reports. It's impressive. Commissioner Weiss, you are recognized.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you all for the lunch break. Much appreciated. So, a couple questions for you on, in looking at your budget, I actually had a meeting with constituent who is also a landscaper. One of the things they brought up was considering switching our grass in the medians to Bahia grass as opposed to, I guess, Floratam or whatever that turf is that they're using. He said it saves quite a bit of money and that it doesn't die after lack of rainfall or water and things like that. It'll regenerate, and all you have to do is, I guess they spray on new seed every once in a while into it. So that was a suggestion made as being something that potentially helps save money. And
We could take a look at that, yes.
so anyway, so
What type of grass do we use now in the medians?
Well, it's all over. Steve, can you talk about that? Steve?
Well, let's get Steve in the conversation.
Steve, yes. You're recognized, sir.
Good afternoon. All our grass in the medians are Bahia.
Oh, well,
The only ones that are Floratam are the ones that are permitted. And your landscape guy is correct. If it's Floratam, it needs to be irrigated, which is expensive. And so generally speaking, the permitted ones are Floratam, which are nicer and greener, but they need irrigation. But everything we put in is Bahia.
Okay,
Very good.
all right.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll have to let him know. I had a question about, one of the things, and you're talking about, some of the newer technologies you're using. What about real-time data, network data of the entire network? I know right now we put out those strips that count cars, which are really, I guess, very accurate. But my understanding, too, is that we can see network data for the entire county is now available, I assume, by companies that are collecting the stuff coming off the phones and so forth. Is that something you all are considering?
We do have that, and I'll have Dr. Motas talk about our central traffic center in terms of how we collect data and how we use that data.
So would you identify yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon. Mo Al-Turk, Director of Traffic Division. Yeah, we do use that data, but mostly it's probe data, what they collect. Each of those companies that harvest those data, like NREX and Streetlight and others, they rely on probe data, meaning that there are certain fleets, certain vehicles on the roads that have equipment that transmit the data to them, and they use that as a sample against the population, similar to the surveys and others. So we do use that, and actually there's more to that. Is Google itself has its Google Maps. Probably many of you are familiar with them. They also are offering now an initiative of trying to help agencies improve on their timing of their signals. And they have a product that they call Google Green, I believe. We signed up into that, and we are on the waiting list. We signed up about 4 or 5 months ago. It promises few things that can help improve the signal timing, but we will still wait to see. The technology and the use of technology is evolving in improving traffic flows and management of traffic signals, and we are on top of it.
All right. And then the other thing I noticed is we've had some projects, and maybe you've adjusted now, where we get the project started, but critical components are not available. We had thought, I guess, planned that they were going to be available, then they don't become available, and then the projects are sitting unattended, or what appear to be unattended,
Right.
because they're not able to be completed. Is there any thought to change policy and wait till, in fact, all the critical components are on site or at least relatively close by before proceeding to start a project?
Well, certain projects, I know, like the Australian Avenue is a big project, which is about $30 million. And so one of the things we're doing is putting actually an extra contingency for basic utility parts. Because we know there may be some issues in terms of when you're working around some large older utilities. And so we're working with the City of West Palm Beach, looking at buying those up front, so if there is a breakage, we can actually be able to replace those up front. Now, on the traffic parts, those are like long lead items, and so we're doing it on a case-by-case basis on the key projects to have those bought up front before we actually put a shovel in the ground, so.
Yeah, I think that would help our residents and businesses quite a bit to at least,
Right.
I mean, I know a lot of these are critical repairs that you want to get done, but if they're not able to be completed and they drag out, then the disruption is actually worse than not having the improvement done at the same.
Yes, sir.
So that'd be my suggestion on that. And then lastly is the communication and outreach, and I know it's what's happening on 6th Avenue, and also what's happened with our issue with the folks out at municipal contractors. They're not the normal, but it happens enough that really I think the communication and outreach and how that is being handled is something, and I don't know whether you have anything in your budget to be able to address that, but that would be something I would think would be important to make sure that the public is informed, kept up to date. I mean, you all know, I mean, I'll put it out there, but it's at least a few times a week I'm in contact with your office because of constituents asking for information about these projects that are partially completed, and so I think it's something we need to improve upon, but I think overall, I mean, you all have a lot to take care of, and there's a lot of critical components, so I appreciate you sharing that information with me today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your lunch. Questions that I had, a few of them, if you go to page 9. So I kind of love that we're putting more money towards our 5-year road program, so thank you for that. I do have a question. So it says roughly or estimated 38 million going towards the 5-year road program.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the total amount of gas tax collected? Is that what's listed on page 10? Am I to assume?
No, this is only for us, so the total combined.
Correct, and Sherry can
Yeah.
elaborate as well on that.
So for 2025, our estimate of all the gas taxes for engineering is 100% in the 5-year road program.
So we're
And
only,
then on number 9, I think it says 2024, but did we move all the gas taxes in the current year? I thought it was being done for 2025, so I think that year is wrong. That's really what it says estimated. That's the budget for 2025, and that's going into the 5-year road program.
I thought that might be the case.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess my question is, generally speaking, we've historically collected over 70 million.
Right, now we still have the piece in Palm Tran and funding Palm Tran with it, but we did make the effort this year to move all the gas taxes into the 5-year road program. So that's why you can see that the ad valorem funding to, I hate saying operating, but it's operating and maintenance of everything increased for that. And then during our capital workshop, we had talked about like the Shell Rock roads and stormwater that we hadn't really set aside money for, so we did that. So the net impact to capital just for engineering is $47 million, so which I think is huge, huge.
And I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. So I do want to say thank you. I am wondering, what was it so this was just all previously going to maintenance? Like, how were we able
I
to
hate, yeah, it's,
get
you
to
know, I
this
mean,
point?
we do have crews that do all the, help with the striping and the bridges and some of those type of things. We always called it operating, but just from the ad valorem in our current year, it's about $8 million, and now our ad valorem is 28, almost 29 million. So I think it's 47 million overall. I like to say it's almost 50, but
Going
yeah.
towards capital
Going towards
projects for
capital
roads.
projects for the roads, the shell rock, the stormwater, because that's part of the roads in our mind, and those projects, yep.
And how does this directly affect timelines of our 5-year road program? Will it help them to come online faster?
So, one of the biggest things I think helped is during the current year, back in March, when we did our mid-year cleanup, instead of dropping all the funds into reserves, we took $50 million and went ahead and moved it into our engineering department. So we were able to fund projects earlier than we had planned. Now, that's the budget side of it, but whether they can move everything as fast, there's only so many bids you can probably do in a week, but that's more engineering side of it.
Two pieces of that. One is that the projects that we basically designs are done. Since we are fully funded, we don't have to delay putting those bids out. So that $134 million, these are fully funded. Whereas in the past, we only put 80 or 90 because we had the funding for all of those projects. So that is huge. The other piece of that, if you're talking about the stormwater, is almost like when you rain, it pours, because starting last year, we got a very good, robust stormwater crew, our infrastructure and our stormwater is starting to collapse as we speak. And so we had, like I said in my presentation, almost $3.5 million of what you call urgent stormwater projects. We had one on Pratt Whitney in the Vice Mayor's area. We had a couple other ones that we started with a hole in the road, and then we started looking at it. Oh, this is huge, and it requires immediate funding in order to do that. We actually had to stop some of our major road projects in order to fund the emergency stuff. So I can't tell how huge this is in terms of helping our infrastructure move forward.
On page 11, you have sort of a breakdown between pavement, guides, receivers, stormwater maintenance, shell rock roads. I guess these are capital improvement projects that make up roughly the 28 million.
That's correct.
And with how much we've seen that roads cost to do, it seems, how much further along are we getting is what I guess I'm trying to ask.
Okay.
Because if this is going to, which is great that we're doing, if you're considering stormwater improvements, but I'm trying to figure out how many roads are we actually improving?
Okay, so this is, the two pieces of this is that we got a 5-year road program, which is our major improvements. What you see here on this slide here is basically kind of like our day-to-day major maintenance projects. So stormwater is called major maintenance. Our shell rock roads were basically courtesy maintained. There's very little maintenance, but start looking at that. We need to upgrade those roads to make sure they're safe, make sure they meet all our standards. And so that is a long-term capital investment that the board wants to take a look at. And so that's what we plug money into. And so these are kind of like short-term needs and our resurfacing. So you're building, moving, spending intersections and building new roads. However, you still got the day-to-day maintenance of our 3,600 miles. And so we're doing about $8 to $10 million, $1 million of resurfacing, about 200 miles of resurfacing every year.
So just I'm following you, David,
yes.
before we get too far.
Right.
So this is for maintenance,
That's correct.
and you're saying the previous slide, this is going strictly towards the 5-year road plan?
That's correct.
So
That's
that's
correct.
actually getting the roads done?
That's correct.
That's what I was asking.
That's
So,
correct.
Amazing. And so I just wanted to kind of clarify that and make sure we're kind of, if we had, and I'm throwing out a crazy number, so don't, I'm not trying to scare you, Administrator, because I'm not asking for this, but say that it was 200 million or something we had towards roads. At what point do we reach, we don't have enough contractors or subcontractors to actually put roads in? Where's that threshold? And I'm not saying we go there. I am just trying to give an extreme to say, if we had all the funding in the world to get roads done, how fast could they actually get done?
That's a Very good question. However, we're not the only people in the market. You know, you got DOT, they're doing a very accelerated program on their major corridors, and so a lot of the major contractors, they're pretty well, their plate is full. And so, but we are, you know, considered a very good employer in terms of how we pay people and how we design our projects. So all, you know, we get a lot of projects out to bid, we do get a lot of competitive bids on those. And so I would say standing right now, we have not hit that break point yet. But we are getting competitive bids on our existing bids. So it's not just like one guy and he just got to jack their price. We're getting like three to five bids on all of our projects.
And I'll finish, if you don't mind, Mayor, with
No, go right
asking.
ahead.
If somebody, let's say, is already currently doing a project,
Right,
and we put out an RFP for the next project.
right.
Are they allowed to then bid on that project and hold it up, waiting until they finish that project to then start their new project they may have won the bid on?
Each project is independent, so they cannot say, oh, I got this new project, I need to slow up this other. No. They've got to finish the work that's already contracted for.
Opposite. I'm asking if they're in the middle of a project.
Yes.
Can they still bid on other
Oh, yes.
projects and hold those projects up because they need to finish the one they're currently working on?
No. Because when they bid on a project, in order for them to be acceptable bid, they have to be bonded. They have to make sure that they have enough bonding capacity for this new project. And so if they're a small contractor, a lot of times they can only do 1 or 2 projects at a time. They don't have the bonding capacity. But for the big boys, they can string a lot of several projects along in order to keep the workload, keep their people under work. But they got to have the bonding capacity in order to do the extra workload.
I guess what I'm asking too, is there a
Yeah.
way we can put in preference to people that are not currently under a contract with us at the county so that we are trying to speed it along?
We
Administrator?
currently, we do that. There are points that are given when we're in the process. And if you have so much work, then you get less points. And so that then allows the others to start rising to the top if this one company has a lot of work. And thank you for asking that question, because I was like sitting over here thinking, yes, we've got the funding. We heard you loud and clear, and we moved some things around so we could move faster. However, just because the dollars are there, it will depend upon private sector, what the workload that they can handle, and still meet our requirements. So it doesn't mean we're going to immediately get out there and get everything done expeditiously. We'd like to, but I also want to temper that answer that, yes, we will get them out faster because we've got the dollars, we'll be able to do things, but we also depend on the private sector to actually do the work. And right now, you know, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and if we're not squeaking loud enough, but we are now, you know, people, you know, you got to manage your personnel as we do here, and priorities. So I just want to make sure we are aware of that. We're all struggling with personnel.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Baxter. Commissioner Woodward, Ms. Baker, did you have anything else to add at this time? Okay, very good. Commissioner Woodward, then the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I know you went through it right before lunch, and thank you for getting through it before 11:30, but you flew through one pretty quickly.
Sure.
Palmetto Park Bridge,
Yes, ma'am.
bane of my existence. Could you just go back and slow that down a little bit, please, if you don't mind?
Sure. So this is a project that's been under construction for the last 2 years. The bridge section is actually technically done. They got now to provide the documentation to get the certification from the Federal Department of Transportation. But there's some additional work in terms of the striping, the median work, and so by end of June, the project will be done.
Okay, so because I just drove by this weekend, the concrete that's there doesn't have to be taken back
No.
up.
That's a
Okay.
different project. That's a different project.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no. This one
sorry
is,
for you.
we're
Thank you.
we're through all the hurdles. Now we're into the finish line. We're on the 5-yard line. We're ready to go to the goal line.
Okay, thank you for that. You made me nervous there. That went
I'm sorry about
quickly,
that,
and
yeah.
I missed that you switched bridges.
Yeah.
But I did just want to bring up on that bridge, because it brings me to a future question. On that project, I know we had a number of issues that came up with utilities, different utilities
Right.
companies, with the city, even with the Lake Worth Drainage District. There were a number of hurdles that we had to overcome that I don't want to say they weren't willing partners, but they were very slow partners for us. Is there anything that we can do moving forward, or we as a board that can do to kind of encourage better partnerships with the entities that, I mean, they're outside of our control, but they definitely have slowed down this project considerably and cost us a lot of money?
Well, with the utilities, one of the things we started, actually last calendar year, is that we are now being more aggressive in terms of the design process. We're doing, we call underground, radar technology to survey basically those underground utilities. Because what is happening is that we had these meetings with the utility companies, they have their staff, and they're going along the existing drawings. And a lot of them are basically new to their staff in terms of utility companies, so they don't have the historical knowledge. And so they don't know what they don't know. And so the designs are done, and all of a sudden we get in the field and it says, well, we didn't know this thing was there, and then we get to these delays. And so we are being more aggressive in terms of, especially these major projects, doing an additional step and paying our design agent to do this ground penetrating radar to verify all this radar stuff. And so Australian Avenue is a good case in point. There's like 14 different utilities there. And so it took us an extra 3 or 4 months to do that radar, and I'm glad we did that because we found additional stuff. And so we modified the drawings to do that. And so another example is Florida Mango. We had a unique utility break, and Ali from Water Utility did a great job working with all the utility, helping in that. But that's a project that is related to a road expansion project, about $9 million. And that road project is not put out for bid yet, because once we figure out there's a lot of utilities in place, like I said, we're not going to put that project off for bid until the utility get relocated. And so that was an AT&T subcontractor digging, and he didn't find the right line, hit the wrong line, and caused a major problem. If we had a construction contract for widening that was already basically awarded, there'd been more delay costs. And so we're trying to do a lot of things. We're having some heart-to-heart conversation with all the utility companies in terms of, especially telling us, giving us a timeline when they can relocate those utilities. That's critical. And so if we can't get a timeline, then we will not put that project off for bid until those things get done.
So is that in your budget now to have the technology to do the ground
Yes, ma'am.
penetrating before we start? Because I'd rather delay the start of a project than have the whole thing under construction, and our constituents are very unhappy. So that's
You're-
part of this budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. One more
Go right
question,
ahead.
please.
Keep right ahead.
On page 17, you had listed here, we have 140 lane miles that are over capacity and 50 road intersections. And I believe Commissioner Baxter had asked before for us to get like a map of
Right.
this. I'd like to see that. Can you tell me how many of, this counts all of our roads and intersections,
All of our major roads.
which are also inside of municipalities
That's
sometimes
correct.
as well?
That's correct.
So is this something that we could get to see a map so
Sure,
we
we'll
can
put
have
that
a
on a map.
visual?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Good. So these are some of, or I know you're going to give us a map, but how much of this could you tell us are in cities where we don't have zoning and where we do?
I'll have to look at the data.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that'll come back to
Right.
us.
If I
as
could,
future.
thank you for that, Commissioner Woodward. Mr. Ricks, if you could provide that map to all of us,
Yes, ma'am.
and I'm sure it's designated city, federal, state, private roads.
Right.
I'm sure that there's a map like that that exists. It would help us tremendously in our districts.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you for that question.
Are these miles that you've listed here, they're just our miles though, right?
That is
Or
correct.
we have 50 intersections that belong to us?
50 out of the 1,300 that we manage.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, share that with all of us. I'm sure everyone wants to see
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
please. And lastly, I know you're here we have traffic signalization, and we have some projects in here for smart technology. Can we discuss where we are on like really getting aggressive with our technology on traffic signalization? Because the ones that are on timers, how many of those do we have? Because I get stopped at traffic lights and there's no one coming, and how many different types of signals do we have that we
I'll have
operate?
Mr. Mo talk about signals. Yes.
Yes, this is Mo again. We have all of our major corridors are coordinated, meaning that those signals are in sync, should be in sync. So occasionally when you sit in traffic and you don't see anybody coming, sometimes it is a field detection, could be a reason for it, or other times it's going to be a pedestrian pushing a button to cross a wide road. We cannot account for and provide time for pedestrians to cross at 3.5 feet per second, a road like Okeechobee Boulevard at 8 lanes, when that happens, it disrupts the coordination along the corridor. And you would see that you would be sitting, and you will have to stop multiple times along those corridors. Other than that, we should not have issues. Now, the technology that is available now and that many speak about, which is mostly adaptive signal control system, which is supposedly should be looking at traffic as it comes upstream and adjust for it accordingly in time. Those have some utilization, but they are known not to be able to do much during saturated conditions, meaning during peak hours when your road is performing at capacity and even over capacity. Those could provide some advantage during off-peak periods when traffic is much lighter. There are some experiences statewide and nationally with those technologies, and there are some mixed experiences with them. And so we are planning to do a beta testing of a system that has been around for a while now. We want to see how it works with our system. It's called Synchro Green, and this seems to be picking up. In Broward County, they are planning on installing several corridors of that. And in Boca Raton, they have one corridor, and they are now planning on also deploying 2 more corridors. So there are some technologies. Our signal system itself is a good system, and it's the same one that is being deployed mostly it is the mostly deployed in the state. And we are working on upgrading it with the new controllers that they came up with. They call them Commander, the adaptive signal control systems. We have a project on, as we said earlier, on Hood Road. And also there's another one that we are gearing up to deploy on Okeechobee Boulevard. We got appropriations from the state for $2.7 million, and we are going to be working on deploying another system on Okeechobee Boulevard with hopes that it will improve on what we have now. But again, as I said, no matter how good the system is, it is made up of components, equipment, etc. And sometimes those equipment can fail, and we need to react to them, and that's why we have the maintenance crews. And also some inherent challenges, as I said, when you have pedestrians pushing the button to cross a major roadway that would put the synchronization off for a period of time.
Okay, well, because I know you had told me, I guess we did a pilot maybe 10 years ago with some of this technology that didn't go well, but 10 years in technology is like a century. So I hope you're being aggressive and looking at other places that are using this. I'm not saying we have to be the first, but it's got to be better than it is. I spend an inordinate amount of time stopped at traffic lights with no cars coming, and I pay attention more than I ever did just because I sit in traffic more than I ever have.
Yep.
But we have to move forward with technology for this, because
absolutely.
and even I was told if emergency is coming through rescue and they have the transponders, I guess, that can do it, they can reset the timing also.
Yes.
So pedestrians can reset it. There's a number of things that will mess up your
Right.
plan that happen every single day. So the plan is rarely actually happening as it should for people sitting in their cars.
Yeah, actually, this emergency preemption is a project that we are working on now, and it was part of the presentation that David gave. We have both the TSP, which is the transit signal priority for the Palm Tran, and that will be followed by the EVP, which is the emergency vehicle preemption for fire rescue. They are both planned now, or are in the procurement process, and we should be receiving proposals by May 16th, I believe.
But it will also disrupt the signalization the same way a pedestrian would.
It will, but that's why we have for the Palm Tran, we have priority rather than preemption. But for emergency, we have preemption. For emergency, they just stop everybody else and they give them a green light or help them with the buses. We prioritize them, so we allow them. We try to help them without severely disrupting the flow of traffic for the rest of the drivers.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
I just want to follow up on what the commissioner said, and that is, are we not negotiating with Israel for this technology of keeping the lights programmed for traffic, so that if Commissioner Woodward is sitting at a red light and there's no traffic around at all, I'm sure she would stay right at that red light, not move, that it would turn green because it knows that there's no traffic in that intersection. Aren't we about to finish that contract?
Yeah, actually, what happens with most of the times when we resurface roads, we lose detection. The loops that in the
So we already
pavement-
have the technology.
Yeah, we have.
We have that.
The adaptive, you're talking about the adaptive signals. We do not have it now. We are going to be installing it on Hood Road. We are working on it now on a limited corridor. And we also are planning on installing it on Okeechobee Boulevard between I-95 and Flagler Drive. When we get the money, we are waiting on the appropriate.
So that's part of our budget to purchase that?
Yeah, actually, the state appropriated $2.7 million for that.
So we'd be working with the state to develop an RFP and then try to get the best of the best, looking at that corridor and see, and that's our goal.
Okay, good. I'll be excited when it comes in.
Yeah, and we used to have an adaptive signal control system on 4 corridors in the county, including Okeechobee Boulevard, and it was not a good experience. We ended up, pulling the plug on them after 5 years of deployment. And our, again, experience is not unique. We have several other maintaining agencies throughout the state that has similar experiences with the same technology. But again, as I said, adaptive signal control is a concept, and there are several vendors that make systems that are adaptive, but they are a little bit different between each other on how they do it.
Okay.
So we are not closing the door, and we are cognizant of that. Technology is evolving, and if we had bad experiences with one vendor, one system at one point of time, in the future, those new technologies within the same realm will evolve, and we are open-minded to that. That's why we are doing the Hood Road, and we are going to be doing the one on Okeechobee Boulevard.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Marino, you're recognized.
Don't go anywhere, Mo. Now, I thank you for the opportunity to actually ask questions. They may not be technically budget related, but we've got a captive group of people here. So, Mo, can you please explain why Hood Road was chosen? What criteria on Hood Road made it ideal for that?
Several reasons. One of them is that there is a railroad crossing there, so we want to see how it reacts to preemptions, railroad preemptions. And also there is a school towards the western end of it. And there is a shopping plaza also within that corridor. So all of these introduce changes in traffic patterns that could be not expected, and we want to see how the system reacts to that. Also, that corridor is not oversaturated. It is under capacity. So it allows us also to see, that's where mostly the adaptive signal systems have advantage.
And is there, because this is actually a small lane miles, it's small.
5 signals, I believe.
Okay. And while we have you here, can you explain what's going on Beeline with the adaptive signaling and lighting?
Yeah. The Beeline Highway is a huge project. The state has just started construction on it, and it extends from North Lake Boulevard all the way down and going into Martin Luther King. So at the outset of it, they are going to be rebuilding the intersection of Beeline and North Lake Boulevard with a new design concept that we are not used to. They call it partial continuous flow, where they allow the heavy movement, the northbound left turn to go west, to be separated in advance of the main intersection. So they switch traffic to the other side of the road in advance. So they are going to be building that one first. They will be widening Beeline Highway all the way, and towards the end of it at MLK, from, I believe, Military Trail to US 1, about 8 signals. Within that short corridor, they are going to be also playing with or testing new technologies for traffic, including adaptive, and they may choose a different vendor than the ones that we are experimenting with or planning to deploy at Hood Road, and also with some other forms of detection, pedestrian detection, and bicycle warning devices, and also even they want to do some sort of freight priority systems within that corridor.
Thank you, because I know there's a lot of discussion about Beeline and all of the other roads that connect to it, so I appreciate that. So, coastal residential exceptions on TPS. I know that's not part of the budget, but I got that question this week, and it was, like, let's build east and not build west, and it's okay if we're over capacity. Can anybody explain that to me? Patrick, you look like you wanted to jump all over this question.
Not so much that I wanted to, but you got the planner in the group, so. Concept that evolved, I think it was going back to the 90s. Some of you might remember the term Eastward Ho, redevelop our coastal communities, et cetera. The concept was to try and stimulate residential development in the coastal area, to not hold new residential projects to the, at the time, strict concurrency standards that did exist. Those standards don't exist today. So the value of that exception is probably not the same as it might have used to be, but it was an incentive to encourage coastal cities to develop more residential projects.
So as we go up and down Route 1, whatever they call it here, and we're building units that are tall, like in Lake Park, and furthering down on US 1, do they not have to meet traffic standards?
They paid impact fees. They did not have to meet it in the strict concurrency standards of having capacity in place at the time they came through. Obviously, again, that changed in 2011, but at the time they were exempted from some of those strict TPS standards.
Is there something we need to do about better defining this in our TPS?
Something we could take a look at. I think also, if we're talking about this, there's another one, TCEAs, Transportation Concurrency Exception Areas, which applied to residential and non-residential, used a lot in our eastern cities as well. We could take a look at the viability of having it in the plan and what it means, and if modifications might be of value.
Because we've all heard that, well, if the road is already failing, go ahead and give the permits out. So how do we get an explanation for that?
The short answer to that is, if the road is failing, we have no means to say no, because concurrency does not exist. It was, again, this concept was created in a time when concurrency did exist and provided for that out. But keeping in mind the concept, and let us take a look and see if there's value either way.
I appreciate that. Also, just want to say thank you. Military and PGA is done. Oh, my God. If we had ground penetrating radar a year and a half ago, we would have been done a year ago.
That is correct.
Donald Ross Road Bridge, thank you very much. After some fits and starts, I think we got some really good PR out about the bridge and why it's one bridge at a time. And I think maybe having a marketing person in place who could write press releases for us might not be a bad plan, because, I love you engineers in the room, but you guys can't write anything when it comes to the public. Sorry. You're good at engineering, but words, So a marketing person who helps with press releases, especially when it has to do with traffic and with road closures and bridge closures, and really kind of explains why, it would be really helpful.
Actually, I heard your messages a while back. Actually, we have someone over in engineering department that they swiped from public affairs, and she's working on that.
Yeah.
I am also working on transferring one of our vacancies over to public affairs, working between administration and public affairs to help coordinate and make sure we're getting the word out, because again, we got new people moving into the county, we have new commissioners on board. We need to do a better job at communicating and making sure the public, you also know what we're doing, because we're doing a lot. This board is doing a lot, and we need to make sure that that information gets out.
But getting the information out is good, but getting the information out in a complete, understandable manner is much more important.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Cato's Bridge, I see that's on your list. That's Cato's Bridge, for anybody that doesn't know, that was where the big sign said, please do not raft up and hook up to this bridge, and somebody did, and the bridge went down.
There were
That's-
7 signs.
There's 7 signs, the impetus for the cameras. I do appreciate that. And with that, I think my questions have been answered. Thank you all for being here. I know we're talking budgets, but I think when we have an opportunity to ask a question, because I know that if I have the question, I'm guessing some of my other commissioners might have the question too, so we get it all answered at once. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Baxter, and then Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, to reiterate, I think messaging is so important. How we put things, what we put on there, and maybe even processes. So I couldn't agree more as of a recent meeting we've had. That could have been very helpful. But moving on to, so currently the county, and it has like a concurrency type system, but we can't deny permits because concurrency doesn't exist. Is that the best way, or is there a better way to put that?
That's correct. Correct.
Mr. Rutter, I think.
In the shortest of forms, concurrency meant you had to have the capacity available on a road before development could be approved. What went away was that strict requirement.
Now, from what I understand is even if the road is, so now if the road is failing, we still can't collect prop share dollars because the road's failing. What does the county currently do for roads that are failing?
Certainly, you're always collecting the impact fees.
Correct, but what are we doing to fix a failing road?
So you're getting the impact that it creates per unit, per square foot, things of that sort, to bring it back up. I'll call it the backlog piece of it. Those are what you have in the 5-year. That's what engineering reviews every year when they go through the 5-year program, find the ones that are failing, that are challenged the most, and try and bring those up with the funding, the enhanced funding that we have. Hopefully, we can bring even more up. Would never tell you that you're going to get every single one of them at all times, but you'll have that information too when you see these on Thursdays and projects that have those kind of overcapacity challenges. You'll hear that. And it's also part when engineering, among others, does their reviews in development. They'll look at those challenges and whether it means working with a developer to extend a deceleration lane, maybe work on a turn lane, things of that sort, have those conversations as well. There's no one-size-fits-all to bringing a failure up to a capacity, a working capacity state.
And as much as I think people may have liked it the way it was before, it's really not the builder's job to do our roads. I mean, they're supposed to account for their impact fees to the road. So I guess I'm just wondering, when we start talking about concurrency versus mobility fees or mobility plan or something going forward, because we have this new legislation to start considering, and I know we're off topic a little bit of the budget, but I think there's something maybe we should address is, having that list, if we're putting together a deficient road list, and maybe how we might want to address these failures so that people can start actually contributing their share and keeping up with what's going on. It's probably the number one complaint I get from my constituents are our roads, and I do know that not all of them are county roads, but even the county roads being deficient where they are. And so I would just really like us to take a hard look at what could we do to maybe do that, because I think individually we all might have certain roads. What is it? The squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? But at the end of the day, there might even be roads that aren't on our radar that could need a little love.
We
Ms. Baker,
actually
you're recognized. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
First of all, the misunderstanding that impact fees cover all their costs, it does not. The methodology used with impact fees determine what the cost of the facility, lane miles in this case, then they get credit for any impact, any taxes they'll pay in the future, any grants we've gotten, et cetera, et cetera. So we come up with a net amount. It does not cover doing the roadway. So with impact fees and other prop share, when the traffic study is done, it takes into consideration all the backlog traffic, all the traffic that has been approved on the books. They keep track of that, plus the new traffic this development is putting on the road. So we have a listing and sometimes that's why a developer may need to pay sooner rather than later because of the level of service, which is below D. I won't say failing because it's still moving. It's not just moving at the normal pace that we would like. So we're looking at that, and then when David looks at, and staff looks at the road program, we're looking at what is below level D. What are our priorities in getting this done? And so now that we've got a little more money, and if the private sector is there to do the road improvements, then we'll be able to move a little faster. But we really do need to look at the backlog of those particular roadways and make them a priority, and that's what we'll recommend to the board during our processes. But we're growing faster than we can keep up with. And as Patrick stated, the new law changed, and so therefore we can't apply infrastructure being in place before the development. But the board does have some discretion at comp plan on where are we with our infrastructure, do we need to add more, et cetera. But that's a consideration of the board at that time. But I do want to make it clear that impact fees doesn't get us nearly where we need to get as far as doing the road improvements.
And I guess I don't assume they would. I just want to make sure, because we know that.
Yes.
Let's plan for it.
Absolutely.
Is I guess kind of what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we will be bringing impact fees and mobility to this board for discussion in June, I think. Is it June or August? So I'm getting the stare from
I'm going to say maybe
Sherry.
August.
Okay, August.
I'll shoot for June, but
August.
expected August.
Thank you, Ms. Baxter. Thank you, Commissioner Baxter. Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. A couple questions on, I know that we, like in item 3C1 today, we're pretty much finishing up the Palm Beach Lakes.
That project is done. This was just closing up the books.
Okay, closing of the books. If you can the Palm Beach Lakes Bridge, if you can give me an update on that, and also on the Australian Avenue project.
Okay, so I'll start with the Palm Beach Lake Bridge project. We're currently under design, and we've also reached out, and this is the second year in a row we've submitted for a raise grant, I think for $12 million, I believe, $12 million, and also we're hopefully getting congressional appropriations, $2 million each from McCormick and also Congressman Frankel. But we're probably, I think, Morton, is Morton here? Morton, the director of my roadway production, can talk about the details of the Lakes Bridge project.
Good afternoon, Morton Rhodes, Director of Roadway Production. The project at this point is, as David said, under design. We are in the process of preparing to present the scope and the plans that we have prepared going forward. But what we plan to do is to schedule what you could call a stakeholders meeting with the city, the CRA, and I think the developer, the NORA developer, is also expected to be invited to that meeting. But we have our consultants working on the actual exhibits and preparation for that meeting. In another, I would say, 2 to 3 months, we should be ready to schedule that meeting. Once we get that feedback from the folks at that meeting, we then plan to apply whatever input we got from that meeting, and after that, we intend to get moving towards the public involvement portion of it. So that's where we're at right now. What was the other issue?
Well, Australian Avenue, I can talk about that one.
Okay.
So Australian Avenue, as you know, Commissioner, we've had multiple public meetings. Thank you for your support and input in those public meetings. The design, basically, we're done design. We're ready to put out for bid probably in a couple weeks. Hope the bids will be open by end of June, early July. And then that we present, assuming that we get a verified good contract and a little bid, then we'll expect to submit that to the board in September, October, and then starting construction 3 to 4 months after that point.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add, since we've had the issue with the Australian Avenue project with the stakeholders,
Right.
As we're doing the Palm Beach Lakes Bridge, let's try to meet with the stakeholders early.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
we
sir.
don't end up in the same situation
sir.
where that's, I would recommend that. Let's try to do the stakeholders early.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. Commissioner Weiss and then Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as we're wrapping up, a couple things. We've all been talking about technology and so forth. I just can't emphasize enough, we've got to be doing things differently. We can't do the same things. The world has changed around us, and we've got to do things differently, and technology plays a role in that. It's not the only answer, but it's a part of the answer and a part of the solution. I think this idea of having network information is going to be critical. Whether or not we have signal technology to implement it or not, it's imperative that you in your center, your traffic data center there, that they're getting alerts when there are road closures due to accidents or some other mishap that happens and roads get closed and nobody knows about it and traffic gets backed up, and then it's not until our offices start calling that people are taking and understanding that an intersection's been impacted or whatever. So and if you don't have it in your budget, the money, then we need to be looking at making sure you have the money to put it in your budget. And then on the road closure piece, it's not just the county, it's everybody that has the ability to close roads in this county, which are lots of people, and they do it, and there is absolutely no coordination that goes on. And the driving public, the walking public, the biking public, the transit public are the ones that are impacted by this. And nobody has a clue until they get in the middle of one of these messes that is what is happening. They're trying to get routed to where they need to go, and instead they end up in a traffic nightmare. And so we've got to figure something out. I see Mr. Radcliffe is here from the League of Cities. The cities play a huge role in all of this, but it's the private contractors, it's everybody, and you guys have done a much better job. We get emails now about our known road closures that are upcoming, and that's great. But we need to figure out a way to do this real time and get this information out to the public and where they can find it in one place. Because now you're hunting down and people don't know when they've transitioned from the county into a city. It seems like in some cases, cities are not, they just handing out permits for road closures by private entities, and nobody's monitoring this or coordinating any of it, and it's impacting people's lives in a really negative way. So it's something I looked, unfortunately, I know we put a lot on your plate, Madam Administrator, but I don't see who else can convene this and try and help solve this and help us get around this county better.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to go back one more time. We brought up the comp plan being the one place where we have to kind of put the brakes on something because of traffic. After that, it's, once it's into the zoning phase, there's not much we can do. But as far as, projects that have been approved versus actively building, since we have our planner here, it's just a conversation that we've had for helping us prioritize roads that, we're going to get the list of where it's failing, and I think that definitely should take priority. I'm sorry. Overcapacity. Yes, anyone listening, failure does not mean potholes or anything. It just means you're stuck in really bad traffic for like morning and evening rush hour commutes, so to speak. Overcapacity. I'm going to write that down. Overcapacity. But we approve a lot of projects. We all know we approve projects all the time that don't necessarily have a future plan to be built as much as they are to get the development rights that they want. And then we have projects that we approve and they're already breaking ground like 6 months later. So for us to have a better idea, I know that you have to do traffic studies for what's been approved, but could we get a better understanding of, you know, that there's a lot of projects that have been approved that have been sitting there for years and they're going to continue to sit there until whatever, they sell to someone. But we have a number of projects that they're breaking ground, and it would help us also identify areas to prioritize this, and not just us. I mean, you could work on prioritizing this. This is where land use and transportation have to come together, because you know once we're pulling permits or they're getting into design phase, like this project's going to get built, and that traffic will come, versus other projects that are, I don't know the right terminology to use for that, but you know, it's zoned for that for some future use down the road, a decade from now, just to help us, because you know we do have a limited budget and limited scope of people to do the work, but if they're building it, then that's where the priority has to go. So I don't really know how to throw that to you, but you understand, we've had this conversation.
Yes, and a handful of points, I believe as Commissioner Baxter brought up, densities and things of that sort, and understanding them and how they evolve through approval processes, your questions about projects previously approved that could still be housed on the books 8 years later, 10 years later. And we're going to come back to you and talk to you about both of those points, kind of an overarching development discussion, and talk about how there were statutory changes. You know, those of us who are old go back in time. Monitoring used to bring projects back when they hit their timeframes, 2-3 years down the road, and the board would have to approve an extension. There have been a number of statutory changes that extended them. There have now been some other changes that bring them back a little bit. But we'll talk to you about all those points, and then in turn, what you may or may not want to do with those as they approach those points when you're reviewing new development, and you know that there might be approvals for projects on a corner, and projects in the area are approved for X, Y, or Z. I would tell you that those projects that are on the books are accounted for in the database. They're tracked, but you don't feel it because it's not built yet. And that's the difference. I think that's what you hear from a constituent, is what they're actually feeling. So we will be back to you in the very, very near future this summer talking about both those points.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. I have just a few issues, because this to me is probably the most important department for the future of this county. If we do not fix our roads, we will not develop as a county, period. And if there's one issue that every one of my colleagues probably hears more of than anything else, it's traffic. And this is an engineering feat that is beyond certainly my expertise. So I look forward to your department, and this is one of the only times you'll hear me say we need to look at maybe some additional budget allocations. First, before I go on, because I get a little bit intense about this, is that I want to thank David Ricks and Joanne Keller for coming to many, many meetings that I've had in my district. And I say to my colleagues, if you want to have, there's no better team than to have our engineers stand with you. Sometimes I stand behind them, especially Mr. Ricks, when it comes to these issues of roadways and traffic. Many of the issues that you face, the challenges that we in the county face, is because of the state of Florida. And they have given us mandates that's very, very difficult for us to follow as a county. Let me go over just a couple of little things. One, which is absolutely very important, which very few people in the county understand, that's impact fees. And that they think that if a developer is going to build 1,500 units of family units, not over 55, so you're counting the bedrooms, you count the cars, and that they will not have to build that road that goes into it, or improve that county road that goes into those developments. We need to know that, before we say yes to a new development. We can say yes, but wait until the roads are done. And I have that little saying, not a shovel hits the ground till the infrastructure is in place. Because we cannot afford as a county to continue to have developers build units. Beautiful units are fine, we need them, but we need to be able to have the infrastructure in place. So, in that regard, what I do is I just say no until the infrastructure is in. And the biggest example, at least in my district, and I'm sure you all have this in your districts, is Lyons Road. Lyons Road is a farmer's road. Why is Clintmore Road named Clintmore? That was the name of the farmer. It was a farmer's road. We developed it over the years, Clintmore Road, and it's pretty good today. But Lyons Road is going to take a while. So I encourage my colleagues to know this before we vote yes on new developments going in immediately before the infrastructure is there, and that is roads. That is so important. Also, we need to understand that to do or to expand a farmer's road, it takes a lot. And I know, Commissioner Baxter has the same issues, because these are county roads or agricultural areas, that they didn't always have all the permits to put in when they built these roads many, many years ago. I'm not faulting them, and I'm not faulting the commission who allowed those roads to be built, but that's the reality that we're facing. So we need to be very careful. We also, and I'm looking at you as a challenge, Mr. Ricks, many of the developers that come before us, many of the applications that come before us as a board do not have a county engineering report on the roads, on the traffic. And as an attorney, I'd have my own expert. Well, they bring their own road experts in and says, it's not going to affect the traffic. We are county. We should put the money into having a traffic report from the county as to a new development before we give that development a yes to develop immediately. I want to make sure, and if it takes money, let's take a look at it. I want to make sure we have a county engineering report for every development that comes before us for approval. Another issue is, where does our jurisdiction end and the cities begin? And city streets, state streets, federal highways, private roads, how much are we having to pay for on this whole 1.5 million residents? And I don't mind if we do have jurisdiction over every road in the county, but I want to know which roads those are so that we get some help from the federal Department of Transportation, as well as the state and cities, municipalities as well. I think that's very important when we look at the budget when you come back, Mr. Ricks, on this issue, okay? And then also the issue of safety lanes for bicycles. Man, I cannot tell you how many bicyclists I see out there that just scare me to death, because what is the width? And I'm asking any engineer, what is the width of a sidewalk? Is that 10 feet or 7?
At the minimum is 8, ideally 8 to 10 feet.
Okay, so let's say you have a 10-foot pedestrian sidewalk. And what's the width of a bicycle lane?
6 feet.
I think 4 to 8 feet.
Okay, not enough, no matter what it is.
4 to 8 feet.
So could we have a report on how we can somehow segregate those bicycle lanes from the motorized lanes? Because I've asked FDOT, and I have to say they've come back with a positive response. It's costing them a little more money on a state road in my district. I'm not going to tell you the name because I don't want you to do this. I don't want to say it and pour it before the cement's on the ground. But I'd like to see us in the county do the same situation with separated bicycle lanes just to protect our people. Ms. Baker, did you want to interrupt me? Do you want to, or are you going
I'll
to?
wait till
Are you going to
you're
interrupt
done.
me?
Yes, I'll wait.
Okay, another thing is cameras. A number of years ago, we had cameras on the intersections, and it was a great moneymaker for municipalities to give tickets. Maybe the county, I don't know, but I know municipalities made a lot of money on giving tickets to those motorists who broke the law. And their proof, their evidence, was the picture on the camera that they took. But now that's illegal, you can't do it anymore. Do we have security cameras that we use, Mr. Ricks, on our large intersections?
We have traffic cameras. And
What is a traffic camera?
basically, it shows the whole framework, the whole intersection, and the traffic staff use that to basically manage the traffic. This lifetime data is not recorded, but all of our major intersections has traffic cameras
So-
at the four corners.
Bolstering Commissioner Weiss's
Right.
discussion
Right.
on technology, do we use that feedback from these cameras to determine if there is a accident ahead, or if there's a closure, or if there's an emergency ahead on the roads?
We do, and I'll have Mo talk about that, uses traffic
Okay,
cameras.
so we do use that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. That's fine, Mo. That's fine, that's fine, it's okay. As long as we use that so that, you know, those big, I don't know, digital signs
Right.
on I-95 and things says traffic ahead, or,
Right.
you know, and in our Googles, we get like, be careful, there's a cop ahead, you know, slow down and stuff like that. We do have that capacity, that technology.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, and we use it?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay, very good. Okay, that's about it right now. I just think that your department is very, very important, and that we cannot develop as a county without your department having enough funds to make sure that we stay ahead of all the development. Thank you. Ms. Baker, you're recognized.
Don't give them too many ideas on all the funds. They're not there. However, and Mo also has an alert called Virginia Baker that calls them when traffic backs up, or I hear of traffic backing up. So don't hesitate to call if you run into traffic.
Who do we
And
call, Mo or you?
I
in the
call
cell?
Mo, I call
Okay,
whoever
good.
answers, along with David.
All right.
But I also wanted to go back to talk about, just highlight the fact that traffic studies are required. They're submitted to our staff. Our staff then reviews those traffic studies. Sometimes we agree with them, sometimes we don't. We send it back, and the traffic engineer tweaks it based upon input from our staff, or we just don't approve the traffic study. So there are reviews of traffic studies, so we know our level of service. If it's D or below, we make sure that that traffic study for the new development has accounted for the backlog traffic. It's just a matter of dollars and getting the private sector to move those projects
Can we
along.
ask the private sector if they want to develop along a county road, that they provide us with funds so that we can do a very thorough traffic? Because I don't want to go into particular roads, but I do want to mention that most of what we hear, and we represent the public, most of what we hear from our constituents is traffic, traffic, traffic. And if we need to do whatever we need to do so that our engineers can come back and say, this development going on, that is proposed, is going to impact until we get up speed. So they're going to have to be delayed. We request that they be delayed so many years until we get the roads ready.
There was a time we did exactly that. I grew up on this stuff, so I get excited when we start talking about it. But the statutes have changed, and so the statutes don't necessarily, and help me if I go off the rail here, but the statutes do not allow us to hold up a project because of trips any longer. The statute also, if the developer volunteers to do it, we can give them impact fee credit for it. But if they don't agree to do it, then we can't we can't phase their projects. We used to phase projects, but we, by law, can no longer do so.
I don't want to get into a long discussion on this, but I do know that before a developer comes to us, there's certain boxes they have to click off. And one of them has to do with traffic. And I'll be darned that if a developer can come before the Board of County Commissioners, and we know that that development is going to negatively impact traffic so that it's almost unsafe because we cannot develop that road quickly enough, we need to review that, Ms. Baker. We need, because there is nothing more important than to put people in a development. And they don't know that. They count on us to provide for them fire, and I know that's one of the boxes, EMS, law enforcement. But if we can't provide for them a safe roadway, then I think we need to review that box and the way that we apply this. I'm not looking at you, Ms. Coffman's. She's, go ahead. Go ahead, Ms.
I was going to say,
we need. Light's still on. Go ahead.
No, we do need to do a little bit of investigating. I do, because I'm not a land use pro like some of the people in my office. But, you know, comprehensive plan level is the most appropriate place to say no to proposed development. And we know when they're making those changes where this is going. But I think we need to look at how we can analyze traffic at that level. So I think that's something we can certainly look at.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman, I appreciate it. Commissioner Barnett. Thank you, Ms. Baker. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Baxter. Either one of you? I didn't see who put the light on first.
Thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you, Commissioner Baxter.
We have asked to pull a list and have a map of all the deficient roads. So we should have access to that. I'm sure it'll need to be updated occasionally. But to the point of, I think where the mayor, and correct me if I'm wrong, was going with this, we don't necessarily have to approve increased density. So if we know the road is super deficient, there's no requirement of us to approve, because they have certain land use and zoning in place already that says you can build 1 unit per 10 acres, 1 unit per 5 acres. Where we have the ability is to say, we're not going to allow you to build 10 units per acre because of the deficiencies. Is that how I understand it?
Stated another way, in comprehensive plan world where you have legislative discretion and you are increasing the density or intensity, your powers are much different than they are in zoning world where they would be utilizing that 5 to the acre or 10 to the acre, which in comp plan world they would be asking to change to. Zoning world, quasi-judicial, different beast. When you're doing comp plan, you do have a lot more discretion. I do want to point out, we have a provision, it's a Palm Beach County provision, it's not a statutory beast, 3.5D, and we've had a couple instances this board has been presented with that issue, and that is where a comprehensive plan, changing that 1 to 10 to 3 to the acre, 5 to the acre, would create a long-range traffic overcapacity issue in the long-range traffic planning world. And this board would have to consider an exception if they were doing that. But the comprehensive plan world, you have much wider discretion and a much greater ability to say no or limit down projects when they come before you via condition.
And I think right now with our past presentation, we have 1,100 or potentially after negotiations, 1,100 new units coming on for workforce and affordable housing. I think let's work through that and calculate it into those deficient roads, but there's less pressure, you know, until these come on for, I think, we've been stuck in the world of we need more units. Well, I feel like they're on their way, but also overcapacity roads. Going forward. And so I think that information will be useful when we are deciding to increase densities on any particular lot or acres going forward. So thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to be quick. I know we've spent a lot of time on this subject, and we seem to have discussed almost everything in engineering and public works aside from the budget. I have a few items I wanted to ask you for some updates. Thank you. And Mayor, you mentioned requesting some information in a report on bicyclists, non-motorized bicycles and bike lanes. I was wondering if you could include motorized or mechanized scooters and those types of vehicles definitely in your report. It's been brought to my attention by some of the mayors in my district, and I can see it myself riding to work every day along Military Trail. These vehicles in the roads, weaving in out of traffic around me. I know A couple of them almost hit me a couple of times. We need to make sure people can get to work, get to school, and if they can't afford anything more than a mechanized scooter, then we need to make sure they can continue to use these vehicles, but safely. So if you can include that in your report, please. Thank you. Also, with regards to Palm Springs, I know you've had conversations with the mayor and some folks in my staff regarding the heavy congestion and traffic in the area between Palm Springs Middle School and John I. Leonard High School, two of the largest schools in the school district. I think one is the largest high school and the other is the largest middle school. And traffic is unbearable in that particular area. Mo, we've talked about it. We brought some of our elected officials to the Vista Center, to the control center. Thank you very much for allowing that, for setting that up. I think there was a meeting that was held end of April. I don't know if there's been any information or updates that have come from that meeting, but I'd like to get some more information on that, please. I appreciate that very much. And there's one of the, oh yeah, the 6th Avenue Bridge. I appreciate that update you gave me. Unfortunately, there is that delay with regards to the, I think you mentioned the density of the cement that was laid, no fault of the counties.
No, we did due diligence. We had our
Right.
own private consultant do due diligence on all the concrete sample, and I was there before.
Right.
And we found out later that one portion of the concrete didn't pass test. So we did multiple tests, like I said earlier, and found out there's a certain section that didn't meet the standard, and we don't cut the back on standard. I'm sorry. It didn't meet standard. And so actually, like I said in the conversation, about 30 by 40 section is identified as deficient, and they started yesterday to remove it. It'll take them about a couple weeks, move that section, and then they're going to report. So we're talking about by mid-June, there'll be complete removal and report. We're looking at probably July or August for completion of that project. So I'll have a bit of update once they do the reporting, but that's our rough timeline. But outside that, everything else on the bridge is basically done.
Right.
And so,
That July or August, you said?
July or August timeframe. I'll get some better details once we, probably by the beginning of June, I'll have a better timeline. But initially, before this issue that popped up, we were talking about mid-late June to open up the bridge. Now that has, of course, has changed, so we're talking probably a month delay.
A month delay, that's what we mentioned on the call.
Correct.
And I know the residents there have been waiting patiently, and I know you and your people have been working very hard and as fast as possible, and I appreciate everything you're doing to get this bridge open as quickly as possible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, David.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions or comments, I think we can thank you all for the work that you do.
Right.
Thank you, especially
Thank you, Mayor.
for
Thank you, the
last
board.
night. You were there until late last night. Thank you. All right, if we could have now the staff for Facilities Development and Operations. Thank you for waiting all this time. And I believe that my colleagues have the Facilities Development Operations booklet here. It's almost a book. It's heavy. And we'll be ready to proceed as soon as you take your seats. Mhm. Okay. Would anybody like a break about 3 o'clock? Bathroom break or anything? 3 o'clock? Want to do it now? Let's do it now. While you're relaxing, we're going to take a break until, is 3:05 okay? Huh? 3:05? Little doggy saying yes. Okay, this will be in recess until 3:05. Thank you. the next presentation, which is Facilities Development and Operations. And Miss, tell me how you pronounce your last name, Miss Ayala?
Ajala.
Say it again.
Ajala.
Ajal. Miss Ajal, you are recognized.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Ismi Ajala, Assistant County Administrator and Director of Facilities Development and Operations. With me today here is Eric McClellan, who is our Director of Strategic Planning, and Karen Sykes, who is our Director of Financial and Support Services. Today, we're presenting a brief summary of FDO's fiscal year 2025 proposed budget. As we have shared with this board before, simply put, FDO is an internal service provider. We are that department within the county's organizational structure that provides the services required to keep all other departments and constitutional offices in operation, thereby assisting them to achieve their mission. I often say that we are the department meant to be behind the curtains, ensuring that county buildings and systems, fleet, radio, security, and other key functions operate correctly. Different to most of our fellow departments within the county, our budget is not based on programs. FDO's framework is based on operational units for which, generally speaking, we have two broad categories or types of expenditures: personnel and contract services, and parts and materials needed to deliver those services. With this background, allow us to provide you an overview of our fiscal year 2025 proposed budget. This slide is only meant to provide you a historical summary of actuals from fiscal year 2019 through fiscal year 2023, adopted budget for fiscal year 2024, and proposed budget for fiscal year 2025 for all general government divisions within FDO. FDO's fiscal year 2024 adopted operating budget totals approximately $54.3 million. Our fiscal year 25 proposed budget totals approximately $58.1 million. This slide provides the same information previously discussed, but for the one division within FDO that operates as an internal service fund, and that is Fleet Management Services, which coincidentally was just recognized as number 10 in the NAFA Fleet Management Association's 2024 list of the country's 100 best fleets. Fleet Management fiscal year 2024 adopted budget totals approximately $61.7 million, while its fiscal year 25 proposed budget totals approximately $55.2 million. As this slide shows, the vast majority of FDO's budget, approximately 80%, is allocated to the divisions that support existing facilities, that is, electronic services and security and facilities management, which, not surprisingly, are FDO's two largest divisions. Let us review each one of our divisions in detail. For FDO's administration, which includes the Director's Office, we're proposing a budget that reflects an increase of 1.52% year over year. We do not have any supplements being requested. For FDO's Business Operation Division, which is the one that assists in researching, preparing, managing, and negotiating permits, contracts, and agreements for internal and external customers, it also handles all agreements with local municipalities and partnering agencies for the use of the county's public radio safety system. Business Operations runs FDO's storerooms, which are necessary to sustain our facilities management and electronic services and security division operations, and performs all procurement and vendor outreach for the department. Our proposed budget for this division reflects an increase of 8.69% year over year, and we are requesting two additional positions, a procurement coordinator and a contract management specialist, to handle our increasing workload. Next, we move to FDO strategic planning, and this is the division within FDO that provides for long-range facility planning, including development of FDO's annual capital improvement plan and our in public places programming. Strategic planning is also responsible for regulatory compliance, including managing and overseeing indoor air quality in our buildings, environmental testing, and remediation of impacts such as mold, petroleum, lead, and other chemical constituents, as well as asbestos testing and abatement. The division's fiscal professionals manage all of FDO's funding, which includes development of our operating budget and responsibility for payables, reimbursements, collections, and all related policies and procedures. Our proposed budget for strategic planning reflects a 7.49% increase year over year due to the addition of a senior planner to accommodate additional workload. This takes us then to FDO's Capital Improvements Division, and this is the team within FDO that leads project procurement and implementation. As you know, and our track record shows, we are handling a significantly increased project workload, which continues to grow. As a result, this division shows a proposed increase of approximately 24% year over year due to 5 additional positions being recommended. CID is currently managing a workload that exceeds 600 open projects, and we support all county departments and constitutional offices. This is an all-time high, and we foresee that it will continue to increase into the future. Therefore, we are requesting 5 additional positions to allow us to continue carrying that workload. That then allows us to transition into FDO's Property and Real Estate Management Division. This is the division within FDO that provides a full range of real estate services to our clients, which include the Board of County Commissioners, its departments, agencies, and constitutional officers. Services include the acquisition, disposition, and leasing of properties, coordinating civic site acquisitions, administering leases, and providing technical support for the development of county facilities. Our proposed budget shows a year-over-year increase of approximately 32% with no supplements. As previously shared, FDO's Facilities Management Division is the department's largest one, as it provides all support services on a 24/7 basis required to operate county facility. It has a personnel complement of 170 colleagues, which represents approximately 42% of FDO's workforce. The proposed budget shows a 5.87% year-over-year increase, and we do not have any requests for supplements. FDO's Electronic Services and Security Division takes second place as it relates to budget allocation. As its name suggests, like facilities management, ESS also handles building systems, just the electronic kind. This division is responsible for access control, fire and intrusion, and radio systems. It also handles county security and the county's public safety radio system, which supports all county emergency operations, fire rescue, and PBSO. Its proposed budget shows a year-over-year increase of about 3.4% and a request for 3 additional electronic technician positions to handle the increased workload. Last but not least, certainly, is FDO's Fleet Management Division, which operates as an internal services fund and oversees the county's fleet and fuel services. It operates, it operates 3 shops, light, heavy, and specialized vehicles, and runs 2 regional shops at the South County and Pahokee. It also manages 15 fuel sites that are used by county departments, PBSO, constitutional offices, and fire rescue. Fleet's proposed budget shows a decrease of 10.5% year over year, and a request for 2 additional positions to assist with service delivery. Please note that in reviewing the presentation after it was distributed, we noticed that the title of the positions is incorrect. It should read Fleet Services System. On a closing note, we thought it will be beneficial to provide this board a high-level overview of our historical capital budget and our proposed fiscal year 2025 proposed budget, along with an overview of the 5-year CIP. Although there is certainly not enough time to go over all the capital projects we have underway, we would like to provide this board a high-level overview of a few we know to be of special interest. The Supervisor of Election Production Facility has achieved substantial completion, and we are in the process of planning a ribbon cutting ceremony, hopefully in the next month. For Phase 2 of the Canyon District Park, we have received the guaranteed maximum price and expect to bring an item for consideration by this board in the next month, I should say July. Next month is June. Time flies. For construction of Canyon Library, we're moving ahead. Construction is progressing. We expect to complete the same by July 2024, which will then allow for a start of operations in the fall of 2024. Animal Care and Control Renovation and Expansion Project, we have the sign underway. We expect to bring an item for consideration by the board in July 2024, with completion of design efforts towards the end of the year. Airport Center 3, we have commenced procurement for design services, the first step of which is actually going to the goal-setting committee, which will happen this afternoon. It's scheduled to take place later today. Governmental Center Renewal Replacement Project, following board direction, we have recommenced design efforts, and we're currently working on a phasing plan to implement the project and continue with design. Prosperity Village Cottage Homes, which is a county project where the West Palm Beach Housing Authority serves as the developer and operator, is nearing the end of the construction phase, and we expect completion in July, August 2024. The Medical Examiner's Office expansion project has design ongoing. We have been working very closely with the medical examiner, and we hope to have design completed next year. 2300 Business Center expansion is also in design, and we expect final drawings by the end of this year. Brook Subdivision, we have achieved the 75% completion construction drawings milestone, and we're drafting an RFP to select a developer so that construction can commence. As it relates to projects under PREM and the Palmar acquisitions to date, including the item that the board considered earlier today, this board has approved the acquisition of about 96 acres, amounting to approximately $2.6 million, or 66% of the total funds that were allocated for environmental sensitive lands. The Convention Center Second Hotel, we have commenced negotiations, and we're moving forward. Hopefully, we will be back to this board with a contract. Lake Lido Pool Facility Replacement, Phase 3 of that project has design underway, and we do expect to have completed drawings by the end of the year. Fire Station 49 is under construction with an expected completion in the summer of 2025. Fire Station 92, we recently received 100% construction drawings, and the same are under review, so design is moving forward. Gramercy Park, as you know, is under construction, and we expect to have the same completed in spring 2025. Design services for the North County Aquatic Complex were approved during the last week's board meeting, regular meeting, therefore we're proceeding with design. Aquacrest Pool Facility Replacement, we're negotiating the corresponding consultant services authorization for approval by this board in order to commence design. At the South County Regional Park, we have several projects taking place, smaller in nature, but all relevant, as you can imagine. The boat ramp replacement, we have design and permitting that is being finalized. The pickleball court lighting project is in design. The baseball press box roof and HVAC replacement is approaching completion. We just have final finishes pending. The Sunset Cove Pavilion renovation, we have construction moving forward, commencing, and the Coconut Cove pool deck and shower renovation, we're actually nearing completion. As it relates to the new mosquito control replacement facility, we have a GMP that will be in front of this board for consideration during its June 14, 2024 meeting. As it relates to the 45th Street complex, the community services new building, we expect master planning, design, and permitting to be done next year. South County Administrative Complex redevelopment, we're coming back to this board in June of this year with a funding plan and the parking analysis. Milani Park, we are on the street procuring design services, and proposals are due May 24. And last, but certainly not least, The PBSO District 1 Marine Unit project is under construction, and we do have an expected completion by spring 2025. This concludes our presentation, and as usual, we will gladly take questions as you deem it appropriate.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions or comments by Board of County Commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, that was quite a list of projects you just enumerated to us, so you all are very busy. I guess, as you were going through your presentation, I wondered about, you were in your ESS is a very relatively large group of folks, and a lot of important things happen there, but obviously this stuff becomes obsolete. What's the replacement plan for that system?
Which system, Commissioner?
Your electronic security system.
They are all on different schedules depending on which system we're talking about, okay? Access, cameras, all of them follow a different life cycle, and we plan for renewal replacement based on those life cycles. So it's a function of the technology we're dealing with. We have a planning group within our ESS division that their specialty is precisely making sure that they're keeping ahead of that technology that is being specified, right? And that is tested technology that we know it will work, but that we're not falling behind.
And so I assume that that's built into your budget, the renewal and replacement of that?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments at this time? All right, very good. Well, Commissioner Baxter?
Hi. Thank you, Mayor. Are all of your current positions full?
No.
But now we're adding 5 more?
We're adding or requesting, if this board approves, 5 additional positions within the Capital Improvements Division. The Capital Improvement Division, I want to say, has right now 2 open positions out of a person complement of over 30 colleagues. I have a department that has over 402 positions, and I do have some positions that have current turnover, right? I have security officers, I have lower grade positions. So that contributes to an extent to the vacancies I have. And we are continuously hiring, right? So I have a continuous movement of those positions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter. Any other questions or comments by members of the board? Very good. Well, that was very thorough. We appreciate it. And thank you, and see you soon on the budget request. Now we're going to move on, and I want to thank those folks for staying all this time, and that's public safety, which is very important. Do you folks want any water or anything down there? You okay? Okay, would you like some water? You okay? Water? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, you are recognized.
Am I on? All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners, Vice Mayor, Mayor, and County Administrator Baker. My name is Stephanie Shanahaw, Director of Public Safety. With me today is Marianella Diaz, my Director of Finance, and of course, Todd Bonlaren, the Assistant County Administrator. So today we're going to talk about Public Safety's FY 2025 proposed budget. Our mission is to enhance the safety and well-beings of our citizens here in Palm Beach County. Our vision is to have a safe, informed, and resilient community. The Department of Public Safety consists of 7 distinct divisions providing services from 11 office locations throughout the county. 911 program services, animal care and control, consumer affairs, emergency management, finance and administrative services, justice services, and victim services. These divisions are responsible for providing critical services such as the deployment and maintenance of technical infrastructure for 911 call and text routing, administration and enforcement of ordinances and laws for consumer protection, animals, and the public, minimizing impact of disasters by coordinating information and resources through education, planning, and response, managing financial and administrative needs, professional support to the citizens and the justice system through a variety of programs, and advocacy and therapy services to victims of violent crime. All divisions provide outreach and education services specific to their area of expertise. All of our services are countywide. Our 2025 budget includes 274 positions, of which 4 are supplemental requests. Our overall budget is $59 million, and we collect $32 million in revenue through fees for services, grants, licensing, et cetera, leaving $27 million in ad valorem. Our overall increase in ad valorem is 5% from 2024 to 2025. This slide provides a breakdown of our total revenue by funding source on the left. I would like to highlight the fund balance of $14 million on the bottom left-hand corner is restricted funds from 911 and our special revenue funds that we collect funds for from either grants or fees for services. The chart on the right of this slide shows a breakdown of expenses by category. This slide shows a breakdown of total revenues, expenses, and ad valorem totaling $27.4 million. It also provides a breakdown of position by count by division. Now I'd like to provide an overview of each division and what these dollars fund. The first division is 911 program services, and this division is 100% non-ad valorem funded. Funds for this program are provided by the State Emergency Communication Trust Fund. This division provides the technical infrastructure that goes into Palm Beach County's 16 PSAPs, which is your public safety answering points or your emergency communication center where they answer 911 calls. We ensure that all persons that dial 911 have their call answered by the appropriate public safety answering point and in accordance with national standards. The next division is animal care and control, and we ensure the protection and advocacy of companion animals by utilizing education and support the humans taking care of them. We do this through 4 main areas in our operations: clinic, field, which provide 24/7 emergency services, and shelter and administration. No other municipality provides animal care and control support other than one, which is the city of Boynton Beach, which employs 1 animal control officer, and any animals captured come to our shelter from them. The ad valorem support is $14 million, which is mainly attributed to staff support, pet licensing, rabies tags, outsource program, spay-neutering outsourcing, medical supplies, and drugs. The division also brings in $3.2 million in ad valorem revenue through our pet licensing, rabies tag program, clinic services, commercial fees, and pet adoptions. The next division is the Division of Consumer Affairs, and they're responsible for ensuring consumer concerns are addressed and consumers are protected by licensing and enforcing 5 industries: vehicle for hire, moving and storage, towing and immobilization, home caregivers, and adult entertainment. The division also investigates and mediates complaints against businesses in Palm Beach County. The ad valorem for this division is $723,000, which is mainly from salaries, running background checks, and fingerprinting equipment. The division also brings in $2.4 million in revenue through fees collected from all of the industries that I previously mentioned. The next division is the Division of Emergency Management, and this agency is required by Florida Statute Chapter 252. They are responsible for ensuring our community is prepared for any disaster. They collaborate and coordinate with various agencies to ensure our community has minimal impact of an emergency through planning, training, exercise, and response. The division's ad valorem budget consists of $2.9 million, which is mainly from salaries, but also to support the 24/7 county warning point and a variety of hazard plans. The division receives $1.2 million in revenue, which is mainly attributable to grants. Next Tuesday, the board will hear from emergency management, and we will do a deeper dive in all the programs and services that are offered under that division, as well as prepare you for hurricane season, that we're not going to have any on. Yeah, sorry, I'll put that caveat in there. The next division is Justice Services, and they provide support to both the justice system and citizens through pretrial services, supervised own recognizance, drug court programs, and offender reentry services, so these individuals can transition back to our community. Their ad valorem support is just over $4.6 million, and that includes salary and funding for the reentry contracts, the drug court contracts, and legal aid contracts. They also bring in revenue of $2 million, which is mainly attributable to grants. The last division is Victim Services. This division provides advocacy and therapy services for all victims of violent crime, which includes homicide, sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking, stalking, and any other violent crime. They have $4.1 million in ad valorem support, which includes salaries, contract for medical evaluations for victims, 211 for after-hours rape crisis hotline, and various operating expenses for 7 office locations in Palm Beach County. This next slide is a list of our supplementals. Our FY 2025 supplemental requests included 4 positions to support animal care and control operations that are being recommended for approval and will be included in the June Board of County Commissioners budget package. Public safety demand is on the rise in all areas of public safety. This is just a snapshot of some of our key metrics. Animal care and control is continuing, starting at the top left of the charts, animal care and control is continuing to see an increase in animal intake and complaints from the public. Most of this is due to economy and that people can't afford to live here in Palm Beach County and pay for their pets. Consumer affairs complaints, as well as requests for industry licensing and badging, is all on the rise. To increase public safety, Justice Services pretrial program focuses on ensuring the court has the proper information to determine the conditions of the defendant's release. Emergency management continues to see an increase in the number of duty officer notification, which shows an increase in emergency management-related concerns, which need to be elevated to our after-hours weekend duty officer program. And we served almost 6,700 victims of violent crime by providing advocacy and therapy support services. And last, our 911 program services continues to train the 911 call takers to ensure they have the resources to gather emergency information for our first responders. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good and very thorough. Commissioner Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Stephanie, for the report. I have one question for you, and I have a question for County Attorney. Just wanted to confirm, I think there was a change in the law that required the age of those working in adult entertainment centers to be 21?
Yes.
As opposed to 18?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
And if I may add, we are going to be coming to the board the end of June for the first reading of a change to our ordinance to make that age to 21, and then it will be heard at the final adoption in, I think, July 2nd.
And they are all licensed by your department? Okay, thank you. This is somewhat related. I came across the governor's website. He posted a little bit about human trafficking and a new law that was instituted regarding the death penalty for those convicted of child rape. Have you heard of that? No?
Mm-hmm. No, that's not something I'm familiar with. I certainly can look into it, but we don't traditionally watch criminal proceedings.
Okay. As I remember from law school, we talked about that and what was considered unconstitutional. I was wondering if a law like that would even survive Supreme Court.
I wonder if
unless,
I may, at this time, many years ago, there was a law that made it a capital offense for someone, for an adult to sexually abuse a child under a certain age, I think it was 2, and cause a harmful injury, cause physical injury to the child. It was a capital offense. And that law was changed a number of years after that to make it non-capital, but certainly a first-degree felony punishable by life in prison. But so I do know, one time in the state of Florida, there was such a law asking for capital offense for sexual crimes against infants.
right. Well, if it's not a death penalty case, it should be.
I think it is now.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Baxter.
I'm not sure timing-wise, but human trafficking has come up quite a bit recently. And it was mentioned that we, should we choose, could pass an ordinance that required, I guess because we issue potentially licenses to people who are in the business, right? That now that age is 21, I believe what was brought up. And I believe we have a place called the Johns School that informs people. And I was thinking it might be something, if the board wanted to look into, potentially requiring a class or a course on the susceptibility of them falling into human trafficking, if they're in that field. If we could look into the legalities of us being able to do that, or have an ordinance that requires them to take a course to have that, I guess, license or whatever we would call it, I think would be great, because unfortunately, after some of my meetings, I found out women are being trafficked, and at first they don't even realize it. So I think having that educational proponent of it could go huge into just making them aware, and it lets them know what resources they have should they find themselves in a bad situation. So I think just...
It's an excellent idea.
Supporting what Commissioner Barnett, I think, was trying to get to with the human trafficking, this just might help in one more way, being informed.
Excellent.
If I may, Mayor,
Sure, go right
add
ahead.
to
That's
what we
good.
currently do in the Department of Public Safety. So for our victim services side, we obviously support the victim, but as you know, many of them do not report. But we do a variety of outreach services, and we also are a part of the Human Trafficking Task Force. So outreach is key in order to get people to come forward and report. Another thing that we do from Consumer Affairs, as far as our adult entertainment licensing, is we make them aware that if they are a victim or know a victim that's being trafficked, they can contact us, and that information is presented to them, is also put on the back of their badge. So if they need to call the number and report it, they can.
So they're already doing it prior to getting licensed?
Yes.
So is it just like a packet or a paper we're handing them, or is it actual, like, education into
It's
it?
an app, it's an education, they ask questions, and then there's also information, and we're going to actually share that when we come to the board in June with the ordinance change. But it's actually an application that they have to sign, and they read a statement on there. And so the customer service specialist that processes their application and license them goes through all that information. So it's an awareness that's presented to them when they're being licensed.
All right, thank you.
That's excellent. Do we, there is a state statute that provides for, and they pay, the states, DCF pays for signs at all public transit places in the state. Do we do that? Do we know whether every place in the county has those notices?
Yes, yeah, that is regulated by our office as well as the PZB. It's a required sign that's supposed to be posted in any massage parlor or adult entertainment establishment.
But how about bus terminals, train stations, airports, bathrooms at all of these places? I wonder if, before we come back and visit with you, if you could let us know that that has occurred. I believe it's in 3 languages. It should be posted at airports but I'm sure the state doesn't come down and check us, so maybe if you could give us a report on that.
Yes, I'll include that in the information. If you'd like, when I present the ordinance, I can just add a slide for that.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Very good. Thank you. It was a very thorough presentation. Thank you very much. Okay. Now it looks like we are ready for commission district appointments. And I will start with my left. Commissioner Barnett, do you have any?
Thank you, Mayor. I have one district appointment to the Fair Housing Equal Employment Advisory Board, Sunny Macon. And that's all from appointments.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Woodward?
None at this time.
No? Commissioner Weiss?
None at this time.
And Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to appoint Serge Daiti to the Planning Commission.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And Commissioner Baxter?
None at this time, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Marino?
None, thank you.
And the mayor has Sherry Scarborough to the Planning Commission. Okay. And how about we go on to staff comments at this time? Ms. Baker?
I have no comments at this time.
Very good. Ms. Attorney?
If the board pleases, I did want to present to the board a proposed revision to our rules of procedure. As the board knows, our rules of procedure are memorialized in the administrative code that requires us to do a resolution whenever we want to amend our rules of procedure. There were some issues raised about our rules. Our rules currently provide that public comment is to be related to board business, but the rules were not terribly clear on that. And in order to clarify that, we've proposed that we amend the rules to clarify that all public comments, both comments relating to a board item and comments relating to matters by the public, all have to be about board business. And board business is proposed to be defined in our new rules. So we prepared a statement that is actually already on the comment cards. And the statement says that the content of all public comment shall be limited to board business. And I don't think I need to read it to you, but basically that's what it says. And that is legally permissible. It would be up to this board to determine what board business is, but we've defined board business to be anything that's within the constitutional or regulatory scope and authority, and county operations as well. Those are all things that are board business. Board business would not be talking about Trump's cabinet or something that this board has no authority or jurisdiction over, but it's something this board has perhaps budgetary control over, or has operational control over, or has some sort of jurisdiction over. So the important thing about this amendment to the rules is that we need to be uniform in its application and apply it across the board, that if it's the decision of this board to adopt these rules, and it really already is your rules, this just further clarifies it, is that we limit comment to board business. Also, it's important that people confine the limits of their comments. If they're talking during a regular board meeting, they're putting on their comment card what item they're talking about, and they're supposed to make their comments irrelevant to that item. We've also put in these rules that any multimedia or signage would be displayed only during their comments, and again, must be related to board business. So we're not interested in signage that is not relevant to board business. The county commission meeting, contrary to what a lot of people think, is not an open public forum. It is a constitutionally called a limited public forum. And what that means is we have the ability to define the subjects that are going to be discussed here. So by adopting this resolution, we are defining the subjects to be discussed here as subjects relating to board business. The purpose of the county commission and the county commission meetings is to move forward with the business of the Board of County Commissioners. So what I'm asking with the board's permission is to adopt a resolution. I would need a motion and a second.
Okay. Is there any, yes, Commissioner Baxter, go right ahead.
Thank you. I absolutely agree for everything outside of matters by the public. Well, I guess my questions are specifically related to matters by the public. So are we talking to the point of, I mean, I know we hear about the SOE things that come across quite regularly, we have no discretion over. So does it eliminate that?
It does not eliminate the SOE discussions because we do actually fund some portion of the SOE's budget, even though the fact of the matter is that they are a constitutional office, but because a portion of our budget, of their budget does come through this office, it would be my recommendation that this board allow matters by the public to talk about the SOE.
And is this still going to be at the discretion of the mayor?
The mayor still retains the authority to make decisions regarding process and procedure in the board meetings. This board, however, does have the authority to overrule the mayor. In any time the mayor makes a protocol or rules decision that this board agrees with, someone can say, shall the decision of the mayor be sustained? That requires an automatic vote, and the majority of the board can overrule the mayor.
Understood. I guess just as a person who likes to allow as much freedom of speech as possible, I understand where, and I wasn't here for a recent meeting that was kind of awful. It can get taken to an extreme. So I will hear what the rest of the board, if anything, has to say, but matters by the public is, I just hesitate to limit speech at all, but I do understand why we're here. So I would love to hear what anyone else has to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do agree. I was here for the awful meeting that started this conversation. And I think that I would agree if for freedom of speech, people are allowed to have their opinions about what we do. And I'm all for hearing about their opinions, no matter how painful it is to listen to, about what this board does and what we do as county business. It's when it goes beyond what we can or cannot do, or anything that is in our purview, where I do agree that we should limit the speech for that. But as far as if people want to come and yell at us about decisions that we make, then by all means. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Any other comments, questions to the county attorney? I'd like to say a few words. I think that there is a board, the school board has the same type of rules, and that can be a pretty contentious group of public meeting, but it does limit any remarks to the issues that the board of the school board is reviewing and over which they have jurisdiction. I think it is an important designation that the county attorney has stated that this is not a public forum. We're not in a park or at a street corner where folks can come up and exercise their opinions under the amendments to the Constitution. This is a publicly, how did you say it, County Attorney? What is it? We are say it again.
Limited public forum.
We are a limited public forum. Therefore, we should be able to limit that speech that is directed towards our jurisdiction and towards those items which we are discussing. Furthermore, I think that it is proper at this time, especially with regard to a couple of items, and I have to confess I haven't read this all, but I hope that here there's a distinction in opinion and disparaging or disrespectful remarks towards anybody on the commission or anybody in the public. Is there not?
No, Madam Mayor, there is not.
Okay, then
disparaging remarks are protected.
I will say this, that just so that you know, as your mayor, if there's any signals of any remarks towards a protected class, which has been designated by the Supreme Court as protected class, then I may exercise my authority as mayor to exercise decorum. And if you don't like it, you can certainly speak up and overrule me. But I'm just telling you, I will not have any disrespectful remarks towards any protected classes, no matter whether you're a member of that or not. And secondly, I'd like to be sure that these rules or these rules of procedure are printed on the comment cards so that when the public comes forward to write their name on it, that they know ahead of time what the rules of procedure are for this, the decorum of this board. I have to say that when it comes to being in public office for as long as I have, and being an officer of the court in the courts of law, that there is a very prescribed rules of procedure. And as the judges would say, you may not like me, but you have to respect the rule of law and the flag and those who fought and died for it behind me. And just so that you know, this is the way your mayor thinks. And you always have the right to overrule me. But it's not a personal thing for me, but it's the flag behind me that should always be respected. So with that in mind, Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I support this, understanding the limitations that the law prescribes for us. I'm wondering, you talked about it's going to be on the form, and it is already on the form. But I wonder if we just took an extra step and gave it a little tick box that says that you have read and understand these rules. If that then, either if they don't tick the box, they then can be asked to make sure that they read and understand those rules, or maybe somebody needs to explain it to them because they can't read and understand them.
I would be hesitant to do that. It is a very fine line that we walk with having, and I'm having trouble remembering the correct terminology here, but you can't put prior restraints on speech. And I would be concerned that requiring somebody to sign something, to agree to something, could easily be a prior restraint on speech. So I would not recommend doing that. I think having it printed on the form is great. I think that you can have signs posted. I realize this is something that we're struggling with right now, but I think that that might be a line too far.
All right. I mean, obviously, I don't believe in impinging on people's rights. But as you said, this is a limited public forum. It is not an open public forum. There are venues for such activities. This is not one of them. So I want to preserve their rights, but at the other, and I just thought maybe as a suggestion, and if it's not something we can do, that's fine too. But I was just trying to make sure that people acknowledge they were aware that they have an obligation as well of how they bring comments to us.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I like the idea of the checkbox for just recognizing, hey, we read this. Maybe not as a condition of speech, but, just verifying, hey, I've read this, sort of a checkbox with that, and of the ordinance. We're not limiting them, we're just informing them of what our ordinance is putting in place potentially.
I am hesitant to do that because assuming that if we have a checkbox and they don't check the checkbox, we're fine with that. But I think that saying they can't speak unless they sign our checkbox is going to be crossing the line too far. And I can do some more research on that. I think that would, no harm, no foul on that. And if it's something that we could do, I'd be delighted to do that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
If I may, thank you, Commissioner Baxter, and I know we have some other folks, but if you would refer to, it's not a page number, but unless you read this, and I didn't, all of it, but there is rules of procedure for public comment that's printed here, and it's not too long, and I think that, I think English is probably okay, just English, maybe Spanish, I don't know. It's up to the board, but I think that it's not very long. It's pretty self-explanatory. And I think it gives, it's very important that people have knowledge of prior knowledge, thank you, Ms. Weiss, of what are the rules. These are the rules. If you don't like it, you can go out in front of the city hall or in front of here and speak out to the public. But right here in this forum, these are the rules. And so I think that it's short enough and brief enough, but concise enough to meet those requirements. Commissioner Woodward and then Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. And as far as the checkbox, if we put at the bottom of it, that not that you will not be allowed to speak, but that you may be stopped, or if you don't, I mean, I understand we're putting the rules on here, but if people don't read it, and if we don't kind of, did you read it? It's just, not that we're not going to allow you to, but did you read it? Because people will actually go back and read something if there's a checkbox.
I would be happy to look into that and, come back and let the board know whether that's something that we feel pretty confident about.
It does say at the very end, anyone not in compliance, okay, will da-da-da-da-da.
Right, we have our rules.
Yeah.
So they have to comply with the rules, whether they have acknowledged something or not. But the fact that we are requiring them to check something or sign something in order to speak at the board, I'm a little leery about.
Commissioner Barnett?
Thank you, Mayor. With regards to the checkbox again, I don't really think it matters if we have the checkbox or not. If people come in here and they want to speak their mind, if they're angry enough, they're going to go ahead and fill out a card and speak and fill out the box, or not fill out the box. And then if they didn't fill out the box, we're going to be spending time arguing with them. Did you fill out the box? Did you understand what you were reading? I think it's going to be a big waste of time and unnecessary. I think you mentioned posting signs, Ms. Kaufman. If we put a notice on the sign that says, by entering this chamber and agreeing to speak, you automatically assume the responsibility of following the rules. And just like they automatically assume the responsibility of appearing on public television, or not the responsibility, but the risk. They know what they're getting into. We don't have to have people fill in out a box. I think it's unnecessary. And with regards to language, Spanish, we have had Spanish-speaking people here with the use of an interpreter. I think there should be Spanish included on the notices. In court, I believe with subpoenas, they are required to put the ADA notices in Spanish, English, and Haitian Creole. I think that should be included as well. Multiple languages. With regards to a box, it's not going to help anything, I don't think.
May I suggest that you review whether we should have it in the 3 languages that I believe official court notices are, or legal notices? That would be English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. How do you want us to proceed to vote on this?
I would appreciate a motion and a second on the resolution to amend the rules.
Okay, we have a first by Commissioner Weiss, a second by the Vice Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Baker.
I was simply going to say, we will take care of the cards and make sure they're in English, Spanish, and Creole. We'll take care of that immediately.
I know you will. Okay. You go ahead, Mr. Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was going to make the motion, but I was hesitant because I think in the cover letter it says something about bringing this up at the next board meeting. Was this on today's agenda? Does it have to be noticed?
No, it's just coming up under my comments. It doesn't need to be on a formal agenda. And I was going to bring it up at the last board meeting, but we ran so late, I delayed it.
Got it. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, we have a first by Commissioner Weiss, a second by Vice Mayor Marino. All those for? Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Kaufman, for doing the research on this. We all have a copy of this. I like to keep it in close to me in my drawer just in case I need to pull it out for any reason. So will this occur at the next Matters by the Public?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Mayor, I
Yes.
have one other comment.
Do you need to do it at this time? No, go right ahead.
Okay. I hesitate to bring this up, but it is, so don't shoot the messenger, but it is the responsibility of the legal office to give legal advice. So I'm a little concerned about next week's proceedings and that you are going to be discussing an amendment to an ordinance that is currently the subject of a lawsuit. So,
Be a little more specific, because
yeah, I think you're going to be discussing amending amending an ordinance that we passed on the trucks and parking. And we have been sued by one of those persons who's claiming that our 2019 and 2020 ordinances are unconstitutional and that we have unfairly taken their property. So I'm a little concerned about discussing amendments to that, and I just want you all to be aware that whatever you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And so discussing that may not be in your best interest. You might want to delay.
Ms. Baker, if there is an issue that could put county commissioners in liability as representing the county that is a defendant in a lawsuit, would you suggest that we remove that item from the agenda?
That is, I'm looking at my partner across the dais here. That's a legal issue. When they give me instructions on how to handle things, I follow their lead because they are our legal advisor. So it is really up to this board. I think that Ms. Kaufman has stated what we normally state. When we're in litigation, there's a pending litigation, we tend not to talk about that because it's pending litigation. But, it's really up to this board on whether you want to have this discussion.
Well, we're being sued.
Yeah,
As a county. So
that's correct.
we need to make a motion to remove that and have a discussion on it, because my opinion on this, and I'm not prepared to discuss it in a thorough manner, but my opinion is that if we are being sued and we represent the entity that's being sued, that maybe we need to have a discussion and a vote as to whether we want that to come before the board. And I know I want to hear from Commissioner Baxter and Commissioner Weiss, who have their lights on, but and Commissioner Bernard. Do we have a rule, a set rule on this, Ms. Kaufman?
We don't. This is pretty unusual, and I just want to be clear that everybody understands. There's no sort of privilege or free pass because you're talking at a board meeting. So if you say something that will benefit the other side during a board meeting, then it definitely could result in you being subpoenaed or you being made a part of the litigation or something that reflects badly on us when you didn't mean it at all. That's the way litigation works.
Because we have no privilege,
That's
as
correct.
Congress has.
That's correct.
Or the legislature in speaking at a public meeting about an issue that we could be.
Not that you're going to be personally sued, but that the county could be in a worse position than we are now because of innocent remarks or remarks that you make, about our ordinance, about why we would want to change the ordinance, about the history of the ordinance. Any of those things are the subject of the litigation. So it is up to you. However, we normally advise commissioners not to give interviews and that sort of thing so that we don't pose any problems for ourselves in the litigation.
Okay, Commissioner, I know you're standing there, Mr. Rutter. I'll get to you in a minute. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you actually for bringing this up, because under my comments, I was going to bring this up. When I saw that I received that notice, and then I heard that staff was preparing to bring something back that had been requested of them. I was going to ask you about that today in front of the board, because I'm not an attorney, but I've been around long enough and seen enough litigation that I can, in good conscience, allow this to move forward. that it would potentially put us in a worse position, and we represent the people of Palm Beach County, and I don't want to see somebody say something innocently or taken out of context that could potentially be very damaging and costly to the county.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Question, would it be more appropriate to potentially have an executive session covering something like this?
No, because there's nothing to talk about at this point. The only thing we can talk about in a shade meeting would be the pending lawsuit, the settlement of the pending lawsuit. We have no settlement. We're nowhere near resolving the lawsuit. There's nothing to talk about as far as fees. We can talk about fees in the lawsuit. That's it. That's all we can talk about in a shade session. We are very, very limited. So there's really nothing that we could schedule a shade session on.
There are several things that I think, limited things that have been able to be discussed here, and we've said quite a bit already. So going forward, I do agree, I don't want to have this in public, so let me throw that out there. I think, it is in the court's hands at this point, but I do think, since it is in a lawsuit, that a shade session, maybe a more in-depth discussion with the board on what the suit is over and what they're claiming, because I don't know if anyone else has actually read what they're claiming, and maybe some have, maybe some haven't. But I think, it would be maybe appropriate and to ask some more in-depth questions, because I've actually had, outside of this, some other issues that I won't mention right now raised. So in the effort of, since it's relating to the lawsuit.
If this board votes to have a shade session on settling the lawsuit, then I think that I could schedule a shade session on settling the lawsuit.
How about a more information on the county's stance on the lawsuit and why?
May I just suggest something, Commissioner Baxter? Maybe we could have access to court records. The best way to find out what's going on from the plaintiff side and the defendant side is to read what they filed in a public court record. So maybe someone from county staff could help you, or your staff could get you those public records that have already been filed. I think that's probably the best way to find out what's going on in the lawsuit, is to see exactly what the attorneys have stated. I'm just suggesting that to you as.
And Mayor, normally I try to agree with your suggestions and take them, because obviously we have not been here as long.
Right.
But on this particular instance, there's a lot of information I think that we could benefit from on this particular issue of how we got here, on what is being said, that they haven't filed or hasn't even gotten far enough for us to have public access to those court documents, and to hear from our attorneys where they stand and why, I think could be very beneficial to what's going on. Because they're not going to state that publicly in a public record, because they're litigating it.
Well, all pleadings filed on a lawsuit are public.
No, I guess what I'm saying is they're not going to say everything in their filing. They're going to have some
They're not
things
going to
that are-
tell us, but I'm just talking about, I don't know who the lawyers are, and, I just think everybody should express their opinion here openly.
Well,
about
and
the
not
issue.
to mention, it does become public record after
They file it.
after everything has concluded as well. Even our sessions, if we had a shade session, still becomes open to the public, doesn't it?
That's Ms. Kaufman.
It does, but a shade session is only appropriate if we're talking about settlement. So we are way too early in this lawsuit to be having any kind of a shade session. There's nothing to discuss. We don't have depositions yet. We don't have discovery yet. This lawsuit may conclude itself in 3 or 4 months' time, because the court determines that it doesn't go any further. But there's no reason at this point. We can't have a shade session just to give information to the board. That's just not what the statute says.
Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. My question is to the county attorney. I know that we had delayed the effective date of the statute. Are we, since, we're in litigation, should we delay the effective date pending the litigation, or?
I was thinking about that, and that might be wise. I would ask Mr. Rudder if he had any thoughts on that.
You recognize Mr. Rudder?
And I was just going to come up and clarify the point. When the board adopted the ordinance in February that made modifications to commercial vehicles, it also included the direction to assess the code cases that were out there in return by way of direction, which is what we were preparing to do next week, and have a discussion with the board. Your question about the timing and postponing the implementing date, we'd have to look at it and then go back and double check with County Attorney's Office on timing. Would we need to start it from scratch, which I think we would. The timing, we just couldn't have one hearing. Number of hearings, we'd have to have things of that sort, what that would look like. We can look at that.
Sir.
With the board's permission, the head of litigation, David Oddie, would like to speak.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. So just to clarify, the ordinance which is scheduled to go in effect on July 1st is also subject to the lawsuit. They're asking the court to give a declaratory judgment on whether or not it's a valid inaction of law or not. So that is at issue as well. So at this point, if we were supposed to go ahead, if we decided to proceed with what we're planning that's being challenged, all that would happen is that a court would eventually either make a declaration that it is justified or that it's unlawful and strike it down.
Commissioner Weiss, you have a question?
It's not a question. I just think since it's already in the court's hands, it's moving through the process. And while I appreciate what Commissioner Bernard said, I would say let the court make the decision. We're already in process with them.
Yeah, they also filed interestingly, they didn't put it as a separate count for injunctive relief, but in the body of the lawsuit, they claimed that they were seeking injunctive relief, which is not the proper way to do it, so we'll respond appropriately, but they're seeking injunctive relief. If they were to get injunctive relief, the court would determine before July 1st whether or not we should proceed or put a case on hold, the inaction of the statute on hold.
It also impacts other people too, because of allowing for the two 16,000-pound vehicles. So that would also be, we would revert back to the original wording of the ordinance.
If the court ruled in their favor, declaring that that's
right, but if we don't enact it or allow it to become or to enact, it would prohibit people.
Correct.
With the other benefits as well.
The new provisions.
Yes,
correct.
or I shouldn't say benefits, provisions. Right.
So either way, whatever we decide to do, the court is the ultimate arbitrator of that.
Oh, definitely, when it's in a lawsuit.
So
but why it
really,
wouldn't be prudent now to go ahead is they've filed and they've made their allegations. Discovery is going to start after we file a response, or anytime now they're allowed to start the discovery before we file an answer or a motion to dismiss. But in the what we don't want is a discussion on the relative issues that they would be trying to discover during the pendency of the lawsuit. So that's why it'd be prudent to put that anything else on the topic on hold until the matter is resolved.
I see. Okay, Commissioner, I'm calling on you again. I know we have two lights over here, but I think that concerns you more in your district.
Here's one of my largest concerns that I have found out last week. When in 2019, everything changed. We are only now allowed one outdoor storage vehicle and up to two
excuse me.
vehicles.
I'm going to interrupt you at this time. But only because I only want to discuss whether or not we should delete this item from the agenda. Commissioner
It is
Baxter.
relating.
It is?
Correct, because if we delete this, is it going to prevent any further talks of what is currently allowed for parking storage in my area that has been drastically affected due to this?
It's a fair question.
You're saying whether or not we could proceed on other issues related to those amendments? I think not. It wouldn't make sense if that's, because he's specifically challenging the validity of 2019 ordinance, the amendment in 2020, and the one to be effected on July 1st. So I think anything related to that, it would be prudent to put that on hold until the courts make its declaration.
And I'm going to ask the county attorney to look further into what, I mean, that's a very short thing there, and sunshine, and if we're allowed to have shade meetings, is a very long statute to really.
It's very, actually, it's very limited, and there are lots of cases interpreting it. It can only be on settlement negotiations or litigation expenditures, nothing beyond that. And of course, you know, the sunshine exceptions are narrowly construed.
And we have researched that. We have been through this before. It is very limited, unfortunately, that statute.
But as a lawsuit proceeds, if at some point during the pendency of the lawsuit you want to have a shade meeting to speak specifically about litigation expenditures or potential settlement, then at that time it's prudent. But to have a discussion now generally about the lawsuit is not permissible.
Well, I guess to know if we need to have a potential settlement discussion between the board and attorneys, wouldn't that be, how would we know that without having those discussions? If we are ready to settle, like say you come to us, you give us information, and we say, well, let's settle this because we don't think we can win. What is your take on our chances of winning this?
Oh, I wouldn't give an opinion on that now. All that we have is a bare bones complaint without flesh. We need some discovery going before we could make a determination that.
So I guess that is kind of where what came first discussion.
As you know, Commissioner, when the complaint is filed and we make our initial defenses, they'll be given the freedom to amend that as they proceed several times before the court will prevent them from amending. So all it would be is that we give them additional information, they amend their lawsuits and so on and so forth.
Thank
I know
you.
it puts you in a difficult position, Commissioner Baxter, and I appreciate that and I respect that.
I mean, it's not just difficult, but I firmly disagree with county's opinion on this, and I would like to be able to have those discussions with my fellow board members to see if we would like to settle.
Oh, I don't.
But
Okay, well, I don't want to. I don't want to give any legal
them.
opinion at this time. But let's hear from. We have two other commissioners to my left, and one who just put her light to my right. So, before I say anything, let's hear what everybody else has to say. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for bringing this up. I did a cursory read of this. I'm not a lawyer, so I understand. We're not at the point yet to do a shade session, but could I request, at least for myself, to have a one-on-one conversation with our attorneys, just because I have questions that I don't quite understand on how this is going to move forward. And I don't think we're anywhere near settlement conversations yet. But my biggest question right now would be, by delaying, are there any parts of this that like we need to address? Because Commissioner Bernard brought up the date that we put on here. Is there anything we can delay this? Do we have to do anything we had a date put forth? Is it just delay and let the courts go, or do we need to address any part of this?
We should agree and agree to delay it, because we did initially give instructions to staff to bring it back in July. In fact, we made the effective date July. So there should be a motion to change the effective date to.
Would it just be pending the outcome of the case at that point? Or?
Yes, that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Unlike Commissioner Woodward, I am an attorney, and I always give my clients the advice to follow their attorney's advice, and I would feel very comfortable following our attorney's advice. And I think the last time we went against our attorney's advice, we almost ended up on the hook for $81 million for a racetrack. We can't take any action that the court is going to do on its own. It really doesn't matter. I think that's my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if it doesn't matter what we do, and if this meeting we're having next week is basically informational, then I don't see why, also based on what Commissioner Woodward said, we can't get this information that we're seeking through one-on-one meetings with our attorneys, with Ms. Kaufman, instead of doing this out in the open.
That's
I
correct.
feel
We'd
much
be happy
safer
to
doing
provide
that.
that.
I think that's the proper way to go, safest way to go. Do we need to have a motion
Just
today?
hold on, we have a couple of more speakers.
Okay.
Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner, Vice Mayor Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you. I agree we need to listen to the advice of our counsel. I would appreciate a one-on-one with our counsel because, yes, there are nuances. There is no discussion about a settlement because we're not, I'm hoping we don't have to settle. I'm hoping that the court throws the case out. So whatever, but that's not up to me. I'm not the judge and I'm not an attorney, unlike some of our folks up here. But I do want to sit down with you both. I think it's imperative that we all actually understand where we are in the process right now. As you said, there's more to it. There could be more challenges. I don't want to give anybody any more information or any more ideas or any of that nature, but I would like some information. I would like as much information as we have that we will keep in confidence because that's part of our job here. So that would be, when it comes time to make a motion, I think that's what would be part of the motion is that we have individual meetings with the attorneys to better understand the lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. We set an effective date for July 1st, but you had just said something that it's part of the lawsuit. So if we change it, are we then changing the lawsuit if we postpone that or delay it?
So they're asking the court to declare whether or not the 21st, July 1st provisions are valid, legally valid or not. If we were supposed to delay it, then what that would do is take it out of the lawsuit, so to speak. Then the court can't opine on something that's not pending. They don't give advisory opinion. It has to be something that's going to affect them or something that is affecting them, and they're alleging in it that they would be affected by it. So what could conceivably happen if we decided not to proceed with a July 1st is that it would take it out of the lawsuit. But if it went back in the same form, it could be challenged again. It would just be additional lawsuit.
So I guess I would be in favor then of just removing it and let the courts decide moving forward. And that's kind of what I've heard from everyone else.
That's an option.
Would you like to say anything else?
No, I'm just saying that's an option.
That is? Okay. Ms. Kaufman and Ms. Baker, I believe now we need to make a decision whether we're going to remove this item from the agenda that has already been made already on. And so would you like to state the motion for me, Ms. Kaufman, so that I have all the magic words?
I think the motion would be to continue indefinitely any discussions on the
Could we have a
revisions to the ordinance. I don't know the ordinance number or anything like that we passed. I need Mr. Rudder's help here.
If we could do that, if we could have to be specific as to what item this is on the agenda, that would be helpful.
And
I think the department director.
Whitney's looking it up right now. And also, just to remind the board, we were following through what we would have been doing next Thursday was following up on direction, and it would be seeking potential future direction. So we wouldn't have been bringing back to you strike-through underline language in any sort. It was only direction, only for discussion. So I don't think it would be inappropriate to say modifying or rescinding the direction.
No.
To come back and discuss it indefinitely until the litigation is resolved.
I agree. I think that's...
Maybe to continue, is that the proper word? Or
yeah.
Commissioner Baxter, you have something to say.
I was just thinking, can we make the first motion, I think, would be to remove it from next week's agenda? Can we
Yes,
start
that's what I'm
there?
looking for, either to remove or continue or
But then if-
delete.
So does it
And I'd
pro-
like to have the agenda number before we make
I don't think we have to. It may not have been agenda formally. It may have been staff direction. So let's just do a motion to continue the discussion on truck parking originally scheduled for
May 23rd.
May 23.
Okay. We have a first, and I have a second from the vice mayor. All those for? Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously. So that will proceed upon advice of council. We have discussed it and voted on it unanimously. Thank you very much. Vice Mayor?
Now, you don't have crystal balls, but do we leave it on for July? Don't anybody jump yet. Don't anybody jump yet. Because we can, between now and July, take it off the agenda if we are still in the lawsuit. If the lawsuit gets done and over with before July, then we can hear it in July. Am I mistaken in my thought about that?
There's nothing, right. Just, I'm sorry. If I may, Commissioner, I would suggest that we just take one step at a time. And we remove it from the next agenda item, the next agenda review, and then who knows what's going to happen. It could be negotiated to a settlement, and then we can bring it back on the agenda and take care of it as a county commission. But I'm looking at, at staff and council here for that. Okay.
I will just withdraw. I'll withdraw my comment.
Okay. Did you want to say something, Whitney?
Did you?
Ms. Carroll?
I was looking for the ordinance number, so we have it if you wanted to use it as a...
Why don't we just have it for the record? Should we just have it for the record? Go right ahead, since you looked it up.
Ordinance 2024-004.
Okay, very good. Well, that takes care of that, Ms. Kaufman. Any other announcements at this time? None? Okay, very good. All right. We are moving on then to our commissioner comments. And we're going to start again with you, Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I would like to request 3 off-site certificates of recognition. First one for the Palm Springs Middle School boys basketball team, who had an undefeated regular season and advanced to the county championship.
Great.
Second one is for, again, the Palm Springs Middle School girls soccer team, also had an undefeated regular season. And for another school in my district in Palm Springs, G-Star Academy, 3 students and 1 teacher won awards at the Palm Beach County Film and Television Commission Awards, Student Showcase on Films.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we have a first. We have a second. All those for, anybody opposed? See, it passes unanimously. Congratulations to those kids.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Commissioner I'm sorry.
Just a couple of more things. Thank you. During the last presentation, there was discussion on the South Palm Beach County Administrative Complex. I was hoping we could have a discussion, maybe a workshop on a project that was brought to me by a gentleman, Stephen Michael, and Representative Michael Caruso. It's called the Andrade. It's a workforce mixed-use development project in South Palm Beach County at the Administrative Complex, with 190 workforce housing units proposed, if it's possible, before the meeting where we are going to be discussing the South County Administrative Complex, or at the meeting where we'll be discussing the complex.
Very good. Madam Baker, did you have your light on?
I think Commissioner Weiss was about.
I do, yeah. Okay, go right ahead. Commissioner Weiss and Commissioner Baxter has their light on as well.
I reviewed that proposal. It's not acceptable to me, and I explained my concerns to Representative Caruso and Mr. Michaels as well. So I have no problem talking about the housing as part of the South County complex, but to have that on its own is not something I want to entertain.
Okay, Commissioner, Ms. Baker, we also have Commissioner Baxter, has her light on, but, okay, Commissioner Baxter, you're on.
I was going to say something similar to Commissioner Weiss. I think overall, it might not have been a bad, there were some parts of it that I didn't like, so talking about it isn't a bad idea. But as it sat, there were some things that popped up I wasn't aware of.
Okay, very good. And Vice Mayor Marino, and then Ms. Baker.
I think it would be premature, and the reason being is anything we do with that parcel of land would have to be RFP'd. So we can't put one project over another project. Thank
And
you.
we then at least have, as you
Hold on
said,
just one
Commissioner-
second,
Oops,
Commissioner
sorry.
Barnett. That's okay. That's okay. We're very collegial here, I know. Are you finished, Vice Mayor?
Well, what I was going to say
She's
was,
still
I know that and Isami is in the back of the room pacing around. I know that, the whole South County parcel is still a huge discussion. So chunking off a portion of it is what we'd be talking about. So before we talk about RFPs or anything like that, we have to sit down and decide whether we want to chunk off a parcel and put it under an RFP. So talking about a particular project is premature. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Bernard, and then we'll go to Ms. Baker.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's been 7.5 years that we've been talking about the South County Municipal Complex, but I know that we as a board have not made a final decision on how we want to proceed, and I'm not in support of us making a decision on a piece of that property until we've made a decision as a board on the future of that property. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. Ms. Baker, you're recognized.
This item is coming back to the board to be discussed with the board to receive input. We were required to go out. We did a parking study, so we're going to bring that issue along with receiving direction from you on where you want to go with the project overall. And I think that is in June. Well, the workshop in June is when we'll be coming back to you.
Very good.
And the parking study has been completed, so that'll help us a lot.
Right.
Oh,
How
thank
does
you.
that sound, Commissioner Barnett?
Sounds fine to me. I'm satisfied. The project, well, the item's coming back
It
for
is coming
discussion.
back.
That's what I want to. Thank you. Thank you very
That's
much. And
quite
I
all right.
appreciate the input from all my colleagues. I also wanted to follow up on Connect Palm Beach County. I mentioned this a few meetings ago. I was hoping I could get an update on what the county's doing to promote this app that we've approved. And that's all I have. Just want to thank the staff for the presentations we've had. It's another long meeting, but I think
Not
very
done yet.
productive. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Commissioner Barnett. Commissioner Woodward? No comments. Commissioner Weiss?
Nothing more.
Nothing more. Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I had a bunch of comments, but I'm going to just leave it to wishing my Chief of Staff, Wilnita Emanuel, a happy birthday that's coming up.
Very
Thank you.
nice. Thank you. You're good like that. Commissioner Baxter?
He stole my thunder. So I want to wish my Joe a happy birthday. Today is his birthday. And because our last meeting went so long, I did want to wish a former intern, Chase, who was in my office, a good farewell. He has been great. We might see him around here and there, but he was wonderful. And so I just wanted to let everyone know. So that was amazing. I did want to ask the county administrator and follow up, especially with all these budget talks. I asked for roughly 7-8 months ago some budgeting software, so I'd like to know where that kind of stands. So anyone in the public could run some reports as well as us and have complete transparency.
We currently have a software package and we've put it out. However, what you're asking for is being able to go in and pull it similar to an AI and putting it all together. We are still working on that process.
I mean, are we putting out how is that process working? Are we putting out an RFP?
Well, we would need to if we're going to go outside. I do have our own staff kind of looking at it, but there's another software that we are reviewing, and I want to say Montgomery County has it. It's a lot of data that they're able to pull from different programs, and so it is something that ISS is looking at with Montgomery County. And I think that will be helpful for us to be able to not only pull budgets, anybody can go in and pull information on budgets, but they'll be able to also see some other data, such as some of the things you asked about, how many people have we served for this particular purpose. All of that data would be in one software system. But we are looking at it. We did not forget it. I know that you want that done.
Would it be appropriate to maybe put out an RFI with people who have software?
We could do an RFI. That's not an issue.
Just a request for the information. Hey, what do you have out there? And then maybe present the board with some options?
We can do that.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. I have an off-site proclamation. I'm going to ask Commissioner Weiss to read it for me.
Yeah, on behalf of the mayor, I'm requesting an off-site proclamation declaring June 2nd as Italian National Day.
Did you want to second it? We have a third also from Commissioner Marino. All those four, is there anybody against this? Just want to be sure, there's nobody against this. See that it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And I know that under Vice Mayor Marino's comments, we're going to have some discussion. And what I was thinking of, since we've been sitting here for 3 hours, would that be okay if we had a 15-minute break or a 10-minute break or whatever you all think? Commissioner Vice Mayor Marino, how long do you think your presentation will take?
I have no idea how long this presentation is going to take, because I think it's a longer discussion than 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. My question is, I never expected our meeting to go this long today. Is this something we want to do next week? Or do we want to do it today? Because I have no idea how long it's going to take. I mean, this is a serious discussion. You all got additional information yesterday. The attorney's offices have been working with us, making sure we have a lot of information. The county administrator has given us some more information. The requests for proposals for the organizational study and everything are in the back of the books. But it's a larger discussion than maybe 5, 10, or 15 minutes. So I'm.
Would you say it'd be closer to 45 minutes to 60 minutes?
Probably.
Okay. Well, I'm going to leave that up to the discretion of the board. We could either take a 15-minute break, come back, and move forward. I've been carrying this book around, for quite a bit, but we could come back and take your proposal, Vice Mayor, but I am open to whatever the board wishes. Commissioner Baxter, you had your light on first, and then Commissioner Weiss.
I'm okay either way. I do think it's going to be a more than a 5 to 15-minute discussion. I was looking at my calendar. It looks like next Tuesday is a workshop. How is that panning out to be timing-wise? And could we put this first if we move it to next Tuesday?
If it is the wish of this board, yes. It's a pretty clean workshop. I think we got about 3 items on that workshop agenda. I'm looking at the wrong book. But it is definitely, thank you, Tom. It is definitely the board's prerogative. We've got our 2024 hurricane preparedness briefing, overview of county construction process that the board requested, and then the opioid settlement, which will probably be a good discussion. Other than that, we've got the clerk and comptroller receiving file.
I'm happy if we take those presentations, and then under board comments, we'll take this up again.
Okay.
So for the next workshop.
For the
Let's
workshop.
see Commissioner Barnett, do you have something to say about it?
I was going to agree with Vice Mayor Marino. I have high school graduation to attend this evening and certificates to
I have an
present.
airport workshop to attend at 5:30, so.
Okay. So it looks like we're going to take Vice Mayor Marino's comments and just eliminate them right now, or not eliminate them, but just set them off until next week. I have just one other comment before we adjourn, and that is I'd like to have the board support for a mayor's symposium with all the city mayors on HB 1365, which is public camping and its repercussions. So it's proposed for June 24th at the Convention Center, if that's okay. I don't think, according to the count, we don't need a vote on them. I just want y'all to know that that's what we're doing. And with that, if there's no further business before the board, then we are adjourned Good work, everybody.
Yeah,